Sleep. Decided to go live for just a little bit, not too long. So I've been hearing about the EBT scandal going on right now, where they're allegedly supposed to get rid of EBT today, and how they're cutting off SNAP benefits, food stamps, etc., because of the shutdown currently going on in the government between, the far right and the far left. Because, they can't come together and get a deal done. You know why? Because it's not affecting their pay. Now, if you were to say, hey, wait a minute, you guys don't get paid until a deal gets done, I guarantee you a deal would have been done. A deal would have been done by now. If Congress was told, the politicians were told, none of them are getting a paycheck until a deal is reached. So if it's not affecting my paycheck, why would I care to get a deal done? I mean, that's just a human element. Like if I was a politician and I didn't care to get a deal signed, why would I want to get that done? I mean, think about it. Why would I want to get that done? I'm still getting a paycheck. When I'm hearing about, people that work at the airport and stuff didn't get a full paycheck. And of course they're going to get that money back. Not saying they're not, but they still have to go to work. And it's like you depend on them to show up to work knowing they're not going to get paid. But your politicians that make the laws in this country and come up with these bipartisan bills and legislation, you mean to tell me they can't get a deal together? It's because they're still getting a paycheck. That's the reason why. Of course, they're not going to care to reach a deal. They could sit there and have session after session and not walk out with a deal, because what would be the point? I mean, like, what are they losing out of the deal? They're not losing anything. These politicians are losing nothing. Congress is losing nothing. They still get paid. You see how that goes? They're still getting paid, so why would they care to get a deal done? It's not, there's no incentive to get a deal done. Anyways, I saw some videos on YouTube, and even in like some personal friends I know that are on here had made some videos recently about EBT and the SNAP benefits and food stamps getting cut off. And so I thought I kind of would say, you know what? Maybe I ought to throw my name in the box and sort of give my opinion to this. Now, you can sit here and say, well, there's some people that are on ETB and, getting food stamps that shouldn't be on it. Like, that's what the whole debate is about. The last time I checked, according to my research, it was 40 million Americans on SNAP benefits. Now, some of them aren't working, and then some of them do have a job, and they're just receiving like extra food stamps. I know some personal friends of mine that have food stamps, and I asked them how much do you get, and they're like barely like 400 a month. And I was like, so what does the average person typically get on food stamps? And they go between maybe 2 to 400. So it's not like they're really 2 to 400 is not a lot in groceries. I can go to the grocery store and spend that and not even get that much. Like, I bought 6 items the other day, and it was 60 something bucks for the 6 items. So you can easily spend 300-400 bucks in one trip and still not even get everything you need. So if you think about the EBT food stamp thing, most Americans don't get that much. They're not getting 2-3 grand like some of you are saying they are. Now, maybe there's a couple of them that maybe getting 1,000 or something like that, maybe a little bit over, but they're not getting they're not getting the 2-3 grand like a lot of people. They think that every person on food stamps is just getting 3 grand. That's just not true. And they're not getting 2,000. That's just not true. They're getting like 300 to 400 bucks tops for most of them. get very minimum. There's some people I know that are barely getting $100 in food stamps a month. I mean, what are you going to get with that? You're not going to get hardly anything. And not to mention, they restrict you for most of the stuff you can get. If you're on WIC, it's the same thing. You can only get like jasmine rice, and you can get, certain items like for bread, very small items, but you don't sit there and just, your basket's not full of stuff for most people. Now, there's some people that maybe get in some of those benefits. Absolutely, there probably is. I mean, I wouldn't doubt it. But most Americans are not getting that much in food stamps as the media hypens it up to be, or people on the internet are complaining, oh, these broke motherfuckers need to get a fucking job and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, most of them do work. Some of them don't, but a portion of them do. Now, I've been hearing the debate about the illegal immigration part. And they're like, there's illegal immigrants on food stamps. Okay. There may be some, but at 40 million Americans, you can't sit there and tell me that a majority of them are illegal immigrants. That's not true. That's just bullshit propaganda that they're spinning to make people angry, right? Because it's rage bait. It's rage bait videos. When you see these people upload these videos and they're screaming in the camera, it's rage bait. They want to make you angry. And a lot of these people have no facts to support any of the shit they're saying. They're just blabbing shit out of their mouth. Most Americans do not get that much in food stamps, like maybe $200 to $400. That, are there some people that are defrauding the government? Absolutely. And should they be cut off their benefits? Absolutely. You got to catch them. You have to prove it, and you got to catch them. But yeah, I think I agree with that. Now, there's some illegal immigrants that are probably on food stamps. Probably. There may be. Now, for me personally, I think Americans should come first. That's just my opinion. That's just how I look at it. If it comes to like receiving benefits, it should be Americans getting that stuff first, not anyone from another country. That's just my opinion, but that's for another debate. The 40 million Americans are, how much of them are illegal immigrants getting food stamps? It's probably not that much. I'm telling you, it may be 10%, 15%, 20% tops. It's not that high as they're making it sound. They're making it sound like out of 40 million Americans, 35.5 million are illegal immigrants. That's just not true. And people are just spinning these false narratives for rage bait videos, for clicks and views and likes and subs, and circle jerk around the anger. Because, everybody wants to do angry videos nowadays. That's what it's all about. If you're not angry in your video and voicing your frustration on anything, you're not going to get any views. It just is what it is. That's just the way the cookie crumbles. And I'm going to be honest with you, most illegal immigrants that are here work. Now, there is a percentage of them that don't work, probably. But most of them work. In construction. In the labor business, where, I'm going to be honest with you, even like me, most Americans would never take those jobs or never do those jobs. I guarantee you the average worker today wouldn't even want to cut grass or do landscaping or build homes or anything like that. They just say, no, leave those for the immigrants. So I'm just telling you, and I've worked in this field before in construction. It's back-breaking work. Working in the hot sun, it is no joke. And I've done it. It is fucking scorching hot, 100 degrees outside, and you're out there working. I'm just gonna say this, and I'll leave it up for you guys to decide. If you deport all of them, I'm telling you right now, the economy is gonna collapse. I don't have to explain it to you. I'm telling you what's gonna happen. You're not gonna have the services anymore. You would have to cut your own grass. You'd have to do your own house maintenance work. No one in this country wants to do that. And that's the truth. And look, I'm even lazy when it comes to that. I like the idea of somebody cutting my grass or whatever, and I don't mind paying them for it. I don't mind paying for somebody to do my landscape, and I don't mind paying for somebody to do my house repairs. I don't mind paying for it, but I'm telling you, that's the results of what happens if you deport all of them. I'm just saying. I don't kill the messenger here. I've worked in this field. Most of your workers in that field are immigrants. I'm just being honest. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm telling the truth. Most people in this country, including myself, are lazy and entitled. I'm just being honest. I'm just being honest. What's up, Donovan? I'm just being honest. Now, if you want to get angry at EBT and stuff, that's a small percentage of the amount of our wasteful spending. So it's a distraction ultimately. We don't say nothing about corporate welfare. Whenever I bring the issue up on my channel, no one says nothing. No one bats an eye. No one says, you know what, Steve, you got a good point. Nobody talks about these oligarchs and how they're stealing money from insider trading. Y'all don't say shit about that. And that's millions of dollars that they're doing. You don't talk about how they're dominating the stock markets with insider trading and stealing money. You don't say shit about that. You also don't say money about how these corporations are sucking up all the land and getting tax write-offs, and not to mention getting discounts rate with zero free interest and borrowing money from the bank when regular people like us get sucked into high interest rates to go to the bank. You don't say shit to them. You don't say nothing to BlackRock, Vanguard, and all these companies that are buying up all this property. No one says a word. No one says a word about the takeover in real estate and the lack of regulation laws in there and allowing them to buy all the property and allowing them to basically break federal laws and building condos and stuff in older neighborhoods, gentrifying those neighborhoods and kicking those people out, like retired folks, and forcing them to have to hunker down in RV parks. You don't say shit about that, but you will sit there and open your mouth about EBT, which is a small, minuscule problem. Donald Trump and the gold standard, providing gold cards for multi-millionaire foreign investors. You don't say nothing about that. Nothing. No one bats an eye about that. No one bats an eye about Trump's bullshit July 4th bill that was supposed to cut down on taxes for overtime and never happened. Nobody bats an eye. No one bats an eye on his promise to eliminate property taxes, and he never did. No one bats an eye about that. But we could sit here and talk about EBT all day. It's like, give me a break. You know, how our dollars constantly being deflated. Oh, and not to mention, a lot of our taxes is leaving the country and going to other countries. No one talks about that. But we can sit here and talk about EBT all day, which is crazy. It's just ludicrous. Most of the problem with this country is the high taxes. That's the main problem. If we can eliminate property tax and state tax and the sales tax and impose the flat tax, like I talked about before, at 8% or 10% and everyone has to pay, including the oligarchs and the billionaires that are in this country benefiting off of the loopholes in the tax laws, then this country would be in a better place. But no, you want it to where the upper rich, the top of nonchalant pays zero in taxes and everybody else has to suffer. Meanwhile, they're swallowing up all the land through the loopholes and nobody says a goddamn thing. But except me and Prodigal Wheel, which I haven't done a video with him in a while. But no one says nothing. No one bats an eye. But we could talk about EBT all day. Come on, man, stop. Stop. EBT is a small, minuscule problem. 40 million Americans are on SNAP benefits, and guess what? A small percentage of them are illegal immigrants or committed by fraud. And I agree that Americans should come first. And I also agree that if people are defrauding, they should be removed from the program. I mean, that's just self-explanatory, but you can't sit here and tell me that of 40 million Americans, the 35 or 30 or a majority of them are ripping them off. No. Some of these people are working. Some of these people are the elderly. A vast majority of them are the elderly or people that are disabled or whatever the case is. And if you talk to most people, they'll tell you they're only getting $200 to $400 in food stamps. And guess how much they're getting off of SSI? $900 a month. They're not going to be able to live off of that shit. And I'm just saying they're not banking like a lot of these people are saying, oh, they're getting $3,000 a month. That's just simply not true. This is not true. A lot of people they go off these rage bait videos. They have no facts to support any of their arguments. And they sit there and they're angry and they want to just make that rage bait video to get people because, of course you're angry and shit and people like that shit. So it turns you on. So you hit the like button, subscribe. Man, I can't wait till the next rant video comes out. Man, great. Let's sub to him. And that's where you start to see this stuff. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. This EBT stuff is a big distraction. How about we cut property taxes, the sales tax, and the state tax as opposed to flat tax? How about we go ahead and go with that? But no, we got to talk about EBT. And I guarantee you we would save a lot more on the dollar by doing that than we would be discussing EBT. I guarantee it. Like Men's Warehouse. Yes, I'm ready for our game tomorrow. Yeah, I agree, Carolina Panther guy. It's designed to divide. Nobody talks about the property taxes. That's the biggest scam going on in this country, not EBT. Nobody talks about that. The idea that you own a property and that you have to continuously pay on a piece of land that you already own is preposterous and it's ludicrous. Even in some of the third world countries around the world do not pay property taxes. The fact that we're the richest nation in the United States or in the world, and yet we pay property taxes exuberant amounts. In some states, up to $50,000. That's insane. You should not have to pay a property tax on a piece of property you're buying. That's insane. But nobody talks about that. You know why property taxes are around, and I'll tell you why. I'll give you a secret. The reason why property taxes exist is because the oligarchs can use that as leverage to take your property from you. If they can't do it through eminent domain, like if building a highway, then what they'll do is they'll build a condo or apartment complex or a mansion in your neighborhood that may be 50 to 60 years old, thus raising your property taxes. And that's how they get you because you can't afford the property tax to remain in your home. You could be retired. You could be on a fixed income or whatever the case is. That's how they use it so that the rich oligarchs of the left and the right can be able to take your property eventually. It's like a game of Monopoly. That's why they don't want to get rid of property taxes. They're like, no, don't get rid of property tax. No, because you want to take my fucking house from me, you motherfucker. I know that's why you're doing it. And property tax is the biggest scam ever. It shouldn't exist. Jesus Christ. But we're talking about EBT, right? We're talking about EBT for real. We sit here and argue all that, you need to get a goddamn job. Well, some of them do have a job. Are there people defrauding it? Yeah. But what about the corporate end? What about all these companies that are asking for bailouts? That the Obama administration, Donald Trump administration, and the Joe Biden administration bailed out, that they continuously bail them out. I thought that, because I'm told that I'm responsible for my own finances, or the balance the budget is what they call it. If I'm told that I have to balance my own budget, why do these corporations are not following those same principles? And yet they're multi-billions of dollars, mind you. But yet when it's time for them to run to the government to ask for a bailout, whoever that sitting president is there will bail them out. That's ridiculous. Not to mention the tax breaks, the tax write-offs they get, the fact that they could borrow money against their assets and not have to pay a thing back and then make money off the cash flow. And then they have the audacity to ask for a bailout off the taxpayers' dollars, and yet nobody sits there and says shit to them. This isn't, and you want to talk about frauding, defrauding the government. That is on an epic proportional level of millions and billions of dollars of taxpayers' dollars being stolen to support them And nobody says a thing about that. Meanwhile, they're sucking up all the land. This whole country is becoming corporatized. I can't get through a single ad on YouTube. I can't get through a single WWE event or a sports event without some sort of advertisement or sponsorship being constantly shoved down my throat. Like they're forcing you to buy something. It's ridiculous. I'm just saying, I don't mean to be upset, but it's like people are picking this EBT issue and picking on the poor because it's easy to do that. It's easy to pick on the poor and say, why don't you get a fucking job? Because it's easy to do that, right? It's easy to kick somebody when they're down, but you don't say nothing to the corporate rich that live off of corporate welfare. Oh, and by the way, they're insider trading, which is against the law. George Bush Jr. should be in prison for that. And nobody says nothing about that. Remember in 2006 when the stock market crashed and George Bush cashed in all of his assets a week before that because some of his buddies told him that the stock market was going to crash, was against the fucking law, and he fucking did it? Why is he not in prison? Is my question. Well, I tell you, but we could sit here and get angry at the poor because it's the easy thing to do. It's the easy thing to do is to kick somebody down when they're at the complete ground. Because it's just the easy thing to do. About you shouldn't be getting those $300 in food stamps. I got to pay for my shit. It's like you're getting mad at that, but yet you're not getting mad at these corporations for basically monopolizing the market, using the loophole laws against us, and using the federal government to fucking subsidize that. You don't say nothing to that. Plus the frivolous spending that they're sending the countries that are outside of the United States in wasteful spending like wars, etc., etc. But nobody bats an eye. Nobody says nothing. It's just just woo. It's just like woo. It's in the wind. Woo. No one says nothing. Yeah, I agree with you, user. I do say shit to these non-listeners. No, I'm just saying that it's not that nobody knows this or talking about it. It's just people get rage bait over EBT. When I tell you it's a small minuscule of the problem. The main problem is the corporations and what they're doing and using the loopholes and sucking up the land. I think real estate's the biggest problem right now that's going on in the United States. I think it's the biggest problem. I think when corporations got involved, I think that it basically ruined the housing market. And not to mention, now they're just basically owning up all the property. They're sucking up all the land and just if they can't get you through eminent domain, they're going to get you through your property taxes. That's the reason why these oligarchs are fighting to keep property taxes on. Because of the fact that they know, okay, if you can't move out of your home, well, I'll just build a mansion next door to you. That'll raise your property taxes because it raises the property value of the neighborhood. And I will force you because how are you going to pay your property taxes? They know this. So when you go and you sell the house, who do you think's going to buy it? The corporation that owns the mansion probably down the street from you. Because that's their plan is to take the whole fucking neighborhood. Nobody says nothing about that. Nobody says, hey, I made a suggestion. Why don't we limit the amount of condos and units they can buy? And you know what I was told by some oligarch who was trolling in my comment section? Well, you sound like a socialist. I'm like, well, isn't that the same thing you do when you go to the government to ask for government bailouts? Isn't that the same thing you go when you ask for tax write-offs and subsidies? Doesn't everybody, whether it's the left or the right, uses the government in some way, shape, or form to save money? Oh, so wait a minute. So I'm affecting you. So you don't care if you affect my money, but if it affects your money, you care. But yeah, I'm the socialist for trying to protect my own assets. So I'm the socialist. Just like you want to protect your own assets, I could turn around and say you're a fascist, or I could say that you're a socialist yourself. So I'm supposed to just sit back and just watch you do it and not say anything and not have an opinion on it? No, absolutely not. I'm going to say something about it. It's bullshit. So when you guys are sitting there getting mad at EBT, It just makes my skin cringe because it's a small, minuscule problem of most of the money that's being spent frivolously in this country. First of all, your dollar's taxed 6 to 8 times. You're taxed over and over. If I'm going to the grocery store every day, I'm being taxed for the same thing over and over. Meanwhile, you're taxed through gift tax, property tax, sales tax, state tax. Imagine living in California where you're basically being taxed double. You're paying a state tax and an income tax at the same time, which makes no logical sense. My proposal is let's go ahead and get rid of all these taxes and impose a flat tax. But you know who doesn't want to pay that? The oligarchs. They don't, because then they're going to have to pay their fair share and they don't want to do it. So they would rather have the system set up the way it is because there's loopholes in place where they can benefit off of not paying next to nothing. And when they're borrowing money, shit, they don't even have to pay nothing on that because they could borrow money against their own assets and use their own collateral, and then buy up more houses, more houses, more houses, and build condo after and you're just never going to see it come to an end. That's why they you hear the term we're going to own everything and you're going to like it. This comes from the left and the right. This comes from the oligarchs on both sides. That's why they're fighting to keep property taxes. Because with my proposal, if you eliminate property taxes, you don't have to worry about somebody building a mansion next door to you. That's probably some corporation. I'm like, that's fine. You can put a mansion next to me, but I'm not leaving. I'm not moving out. Well, why would I want to do that? What are you going to do? Go run to the bank? You're going to go run to the government like the bitch you are, and you're going to run to the government and go complain that that your neighbors aren't selling their property because there's no property tax increase. That's, to me, even the thought of property tax is a scam, but it's put there so that the government can take your property, and if they can't take your property, then the oligarchs who are in the corporations who are building right now currently, which are condos, mansions, 3-story houses and stuff in these older subdivisions. There's a reason why they're doing this, because they want to take the whole subdivision, and they're going to do it by the increase of property taxes. That's why they want it there. That's why they're fighting for property taxes to remain there. I'm reading the comments. Anyways, so when we talk about EBT, like I had a homeboy of mine. I asked him about a week ago. I said, "Hey man, I don't mean to get in your business, but how much do y'all get in food stamps?" And he's like, "I get like $200." And I'm like, "So what does the average person get?" And he goes, "Maybe 200 to 400 if they're lucky." He's like, "If you have a family of 5 or 6, you might get up to 1,000 if you're lucky, and that's supposed to last you the month." He said most people that are on it are either most likely single, and they only get 200 to 400 bucks. He's like, there's even some families that have a couple kids. They only get the same amount as I do. I'm like, so y'all aren't getting thousands. He's like, no, that's all just bullshit that they hype on the news. He's like, if there's a couple of people that get a grant, it's because they're either disabled or they had some sort of accident in their life that rendered them to not work, like maybe some accident or something on the road or something that may give them, it has to be a disability for you to get that much. He's like, but most people they'll never see that kind of cash, and even for $1,000 for 6 people, it's not like you're really banking. That's 12,000 a year with the rising cost of groceries. Hell, I could spend 300-400 alone on groceries in a week, and that's just for like me and my family, and that's not even including whatever other grocery money that we have to come up with because the shit gets fucking expensive. You know, it's a distraction, man. It's a distraction from the wasteful spending, from our money going to all these other countries that have no business getting our money. It goes to, all these programs that are probably deemed irrelevant or not as important as we thought they were, as opposed to other programs that we have. Uh, you know, but a lot of our money is being used on war. Our tax dollars, not to mention the rise in cost of the taxes here. That also doesn't help. So your property taxes are going up, up, and up. Your taxes on, on your things are going up and up and up. Now the tariffs, Trump puts the tariffs on. I haven't even talked about that yet. You want to talk about Donald Trump? Let's talk about his tariffs, mind you. And how'd that work out? It was a joke. He's like, oh, I'm going to force China to come down on their prices. You know what? Good luck with that. Because China owns all the raw materials. So good luck with monopolizing the market. And guess what? The labor here is more expensive. I'm not making excuses for these corporations to send our jobs overseas, but the labor here is more expensive and you don't have much good quality work here these days. Just being honest. So, although I'm not defending corporations, I understand why they, do decide to send some of these jobs overseas. We don't own any of the raw materials. We don't own any of the equipment. Until we own the raw materials, the factories, and the equipment, it's going to be very hard for these tariffs to be imposed and for them to actually work. It's, it's just going to affect the people here, which it already has. You've already starting to see prices are going to start to go up. If they haven't already. The tariffs are a joke and it didn't work. And I agree with user on the last one to get the best price. When I was growing up, it was always let the market determine its value. If you had 10 companies that were competing for a product and they wanted to stay in business, they would come down on their prices because everybody owned the product. Well, if you have corporations basically stealing all the property, like it's a game of Monopoly, and closing all the middleman down, now you just have one corporation or two or three that own all the byproduct, and therefore they're holding it hostage. So they know you have nowhere else to go. So they're going to say, okay, you either have to buy your products from me, which I'm going to jack the cost up to what I think it is, supply and demand, or you're going to have to produce your own product yourself, which most people don't. No one talks about any of the shit that I just said on the video. But if we say, hey, those damn EBT people need a goddamn job, it's like, are you fucking kidding me? Most people don't even get that much in food stamps. And again, I think Americans should come first when it comes to the government programs. I agree. But rather it's an immigrant or it's somebody on EBT. The issue right now on the internet that everybody's pissed off about is that every person on EBT is a piece of shit. And I'm not on EBT, by the way. I'm not. I have never been on EBT. When I was a kid, I was on WIC until I was 5. And the WIC program ends after you're 5, from my understanding, unless they changed it. But when I last remembered, it was up till the age of 5. And then you're off the WIC program. And then, yeah. So it's very hard to get food stamps nowadays. Like, it's almost impossible because they say you're making too much at $11 an hour. So they don't want to give you anything. And I know because I've seen people literally go through this. You literally have to make like $2 an hour just to get fucking food stamps. I mean, yeah, go ahead and have fun with that. But this idea that people are just gunning for food stamps is just insane. It's insane. It's a distraction, dude. That's a bullshit topic. Most of the Americans that are on it are either elderly or disabled. And that's the truth. Now, is there a percentage of them that are defrauding? Yeah, I mean, absolutely. If we can catch them, because first you got to prove it, and then once you prove it, you got to catch them. And once you prove it and you catch them, then you can remove them from the program. I don't have a problem with that. But let's say even if 20% of them are defrauding the food stamps, okay, we got rid of that. But what about the rest of the shit that's going on that I just discussed in the video? That's the real issue. What about the rest of that? What about the fact that our taxes are constantly going up? What about the fact that our dollar is being taxed 6 to 8 times over? What about the fact that your food bill has gone up? What about the fact that you got a president in office right now that's no different than Joe Biden and Barack Obama? In fact, Trump reminds me a lot of Barack Obama. They're both about censorship, legislation, and they're also both about defending large corporations. They're both really one and the same. If you look at, they both act similarly. I told you guys when Trump came into office, what did he do when he came in office in 2016? He kept Obama's policies. No one talks about that. HR 5736, go look it up, 5181, those are censorship bills, which is why my channel is shadow banned, by the way. And a lot of other people's are as well. That's why I got 3,000 subs and I got 9 viewers in the live stream. That is why. It's Obama's policies and Donald Trump enforcing those policies. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's the truth. In fact, it's as much as it pains me to say this, and I'm a Rand Paul guy personally, but I think Joe Biden did a better job than Trump. And this is just my personal opinion. If you look at the way that Joe Biden ran the country versus Trump, they both had their issues. There's some positives for both, but I'd rather have a weak Democrat in office for conservative legislation being passed because he's out of his mind and he'll sign the bills, rather than to have a Republican in office that's either going to be defending large corporations or not being able to pass any bills. I just said, fuck it. I'd rather keep Biden in office if that's the case. Not that I'm saying I'd vote for him, because I didn't. But if I had a choice and say, you know what, I'd rather just keep Biden than fucking Trump, even though I did vote for Trump twice. I admitted that. I did vote for him twice. But looking back, if I had a choice, I'd say I'd rather keep Biden in office if I knew this shit was going to happen. I'm not saying Biden's better, necessarily. I'm just saying that if I had might as well just keep him in there. If I had a chance to pass conservative legislation, I can go to Biden's office and say, hey, I need you to sign this bill. Oh, what is this? Oh, no, just some conservative legislation. I need you to sign it. Oh, okay, I'll sign it. Good luck to you, buddy. Because, he's just not all there anyway. He's incoherent. This version of Donald Trump is more of a corporate level Donald Trump. This is not the Donald Trump you saw in 2016, 2017 that was for the people. It's unfortunate. It's hard hearing that truth, but it's facts. Okay? This version of Donald Trump, is a corporate level. He's for corporations. You can obviously tell. The gold card, first of all, for foreign investors, that's crazy. Then he's got the big beautiful bill, which is what I call the big beautiful disaster. Not taxing on overtime. What companies even give out full time, let alone overtime? Not too many jobs. That's what you call a smoke and mirror bill. In fact, how many jobs are even hiring now? Not that many. Wow. Joe Biden, when he was in office, I think he ran up the debt ceiling to 14 million or 14 trillion. I think Donald Trump was just a little bit under him, like around $12 trillion when Trump was in office, and Joe Biden. I think Obama had somewhere around 10. So at least Obama could say, well, my debt ceiling wasn't as high as you two. And Trump's like, well, at least mine wasn't as high as Joe. And Joe could say, well, I signed more conservative legislation than you. So I guess the fingers kind of point around in the room. But these last 3 administrations have definitely increased the debt ceiling. Dramatically. Just gone up. Gone up. Wow. I hate to say this. A lot of people are going to look at me like I'm weird. I said this the other day at work, and people just thought I was crazy. I said the best president ever, and maybe not a lot of y'all are not going to agree with this, is Bill Clinton. And I listen. I know, I'm going to get a lot of, because about Hillary. I'm not talking about Hillary. I'm talking about her husband. In my opinion, I think Bill Clinton ran the country pretty well. If you look at the fact that he was pro-military, he was pro-police, he had peace around the world. Many of the opposition really liked him. He was the easy cut guy to get along with. Sure, he had the scandal. I'm not saying he was perfect in all the legislation he's ever passed, but there was a lot more peace under the Bill Clinton administration. That's just my opinion in comparison to George Bush Jr., in comparison to Barack Obama, in comparison to Joe Biden, and in comparison to Donald J. Trump. Like, if you include those five, I think Bill Clinton, in my personal opinion, was probably the best. But that's just my opinion. People say Ronald Reagan, some say Jimmy Carter, some say Gerald Ford. Some people say George Washington, Thomas Jefferson. The list goes on and on. Theodore Roosevelt. People are going to have their opinions as to who the best president is. I personally think it was Bill Clinton in modern era time. But that's just me. Some people may disagree and say, I disagree with you. But again, it's, Jimmy Carter's a good one too. And people think I'm crazy, but they'll say, what would you rate Donald Trump on Mount Rushmore? I said, are you fucking kidding me? He's not even in the top 5 of the greatest presidents of all time. People put Donald J. Trump as number 1 or in the top 5. I'm like, absolutely not. No, not even close. Not even close. I would put him on the Mount Rushmore as the top 5 of the highest, bringing in the highest debt, raising the debt ceiling. Absolutely, he'd be on the top 5 for that. Now, I don't know if he's in the top 5 worst, but he's not in the top 5 best. And I'll tell you that damn sure. But see, a lot of people, the problem nowadays is when they look at somebody, they're like, man, that guy's pretty cool. That's just Trump being Trump. That's just Biden being Biden again. But they don't look at their legislation and how they run the country. They just judge him based on the fact that he's funny or he's charismatic or he can carry conversation or he's cool. They don't look at the legislation. I grade these presidents based on their legislation. And Trump ran the country under Democratic legislation. Just is what it is. He kept the country the same way Barack Obama left it. He just tweaked it a little bit. But he loves the censorship just like Barack Obama does. Barack Obama loves to silence people. It's the same thing with Donald Trump. He's no different. I had just as much censorship issues under Trump than I did under Obama. As sad as it is to say, it's the same thing. Donald Trump is a modern day Barack Obama. I hate to say it, but it's the truth. It's the honest to God's truth. He's a Democratic businessman. Some people say he's a centrist. I disagree. He's not a centrist. He is a Democratic businessman. He's always been. It's never really changed. It's in his blood. There's nothing conservative about Donald Trump at all. Nothing. If you look at his legislation, the way he runs the country, the deficit, that's Democratic shit right there, man. Not to mention he hangs out with Epstein. He used to be good friends with Bill and Hillary. You don't think he don't still call them up on the phone? I find that very hard to believe. Why do you think he didn't want to release the Epstein list? Why do you think he didn't want to be in it? Because he's implicated in that shit, man. That's why. And yeah, maybe there's some other politicians and some, rich oligarchs too. So it's bigger than just that, but his name's in it too. Well, of course you don't want the damn list to come out. Well, Jesus Christ. I feel like preaching to the wind here. Like I said, I'm a Rand Paul guy. He's not really popular because he wants to legalize drugs. I think that's stupid. So if he would just shut his mouth about that, he might actually pick up some popularity. But his idea of tax reform in this country, oh my God, it's the best I've ever heard. Eliminating property taxes, eliminating income and state, and just opposing a one-time flat tax. I love it. But of course, the oligarchs on the left and the right don't want that because they want the property taxes there because they want to steal your property. They love government big daddy. They love that shit. And Trump, as sad as it is to say, he says he's like, I'm not for big government. Bullshit. Bullshit. Sounds like to me you are. In fact, you're more for corporations. You're more for corporations than Bill Clinton was. Just saying. You're more of a corporate guy than anything. And you're a horrible businessman. A horrible businessman. Look, the only reason why Donald Trump's in power, and this is the God's honest truth, is because of his goddamn daddy. His dad owned the Trump Towers. He had inherited the $100 million. It just is what it is. He didn't get there because he was the smartest guy in the room. Donald Trump is not the sharpest tool in the shed. And this is just me being honest about the situation. He's not that bright. He's terrible in economics. He's drove up the debt ceiling almost towards Biden's level. If not, he's probably going to surpass Biden by the end of his term. I guarantee it, he's going to surpass Biden's debt. Jesus, Lord of mercy. What jobs is Trump creating? I was responding to a comment. I'm sorry. What jobs did he create? I didn't see it. Really? Really? Are you referring to his first term? Because, yeah, he did create jobs in his first term. The taxes were low under the Trump administration. I'll give him that. But what jobs has he created in this term here? Not much. In fact, AI's taken over. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about AI. Let's talk about AI technology. AI's taken over. Wiping out jobs left and right. Does our president care? No. Because he's too busy into it for corporations and multi-billionaires. That's all he cares about. He does not care about the common voter, which is my question at this point is, then why even vote? What's the purpose of voting for a bunch of oligarch billionaires who are funded by corporations to carry on laws that keep them in power? Why would it be an incentive for us to vote in these elections? Why don't we have term limits? How about term limits for Congress, for all the legislative branches? I think it's 4 legislative branches. Like, how about we put term limits? How about let's talk about that? Let's put a term limit. How about 8 years? How about 8 years is the most you can do. There's no such thing as a career politician. These motherfuckers are stealing money from us. That's what they're doing. They're not fooling anybody. There's no such thing as a career politician. I agree with you, Rachel. That is true. There's no such thing as a career politician. There's no such thing. That's just a cop out. There's no way Nancy Pelosi's worth $400 million. There's no way. Just like there's no way that Mitch McConnell continues to win the state of Kentucky on a rigged election. There's no way. There's no way that you can sit here and tell me that these politicians aren't stealing money behind our back through legislation and kickbacks. There's no way they're worth that much money. If you look at their salaries aren't even equate to 1% of what their net worth is. But Joe Biden, he wrote a book. Bullshit. He didn't write no damn book. He's incoherent. What book did he write? He didn't write no damn book. You expect me to believe that? That's not true. It's like saying Donald Trump wrote a book. We know that didn't happen. That's all bullshit, bro. They're stealing money. Stealing our tax dollars. That's why they don't want those term limits. You know why? Because they're stealing money and they want to be alive long enough to steal it. 6 years ain't long enough to steal for them. They need longer than that. Yep. Try 50, 60 years that they've been stealing our tax dollars. Think of how that sounds. But yet EBT is the problem. Yet, oh my God, EBT is horrible. It's like the end of the world. It's like, oh my God, there's, out of 40 million Americans, like 2 million are stealing. Okay. Well, first we have to prove it, then we find them, and then we hold them accountable and we kick them off the program. What about all this other stuff? What about the stealing that's going on in the corporate level? Are we ever going to address that? Are we ever going to say anything about that? No. Nobody says anything because it's easier to pick on the poor. It's easier to pick on them because it's the man down. It's easy to kick a man in his face when he's on the ground. It's easy to kick on somebody when they're at their lowest in life. It's just the easy thing to do. What about the fact that our Social Security may run out? Well, what about that? What about knowing you worked your entire life and you're supposed to be entitled? Not entitled, but you're supposed to be receiving, at a certain age where you can't work anymore, some sort of retirement, and they're using your retirement money to blow it off. And they're telling you that, hey, there may not be any Social Security in 10 years. Imagine working your whole life and then it's time to cash out. Kalani, I actually kind of agree with you. Let the crypt keeper run. He actually makes a valid point. It's just, no one talks about this, but we could talk about EBT, which is a small, minuscule problem. I'm not saying that there's not fraud going on in there. Maybe there's people selling their food stamps. Maybe there's people that are illegal that are on there. Maybe, there's different avenues, but the thing is that's a small, minuscule. It's a small problem. Okay, so you get rid of, let's say, 5 million people who are defrauding the EBT, SNAP benefits out of 40 million. You take the 5 or 6 or 8 million off. Well, let's just say it's 10. So you get rid of those 10. What about the wasteful spending? What about the fact that our dollar's continuing to devalue and our taxes are increasing? What about the corporations that are stealing our property like it's a game of Monopoly? What about the fact that they're cutting all these jobs with AI and eliminating that? What about the fact that they've sent all of our jobs overseas for the last 50 years, underlining unions and some skilled labor here? What about that? What about the loopholes in the real estate and allowing these corporations to suck up the property, the land? The fact that they're breaking zoning laws. No one talks about that. No one talks about these things. But EBT is the problem. That's the biggest problem here in the United States. Oh no, don't worry about property taxes. Oh no, to steal your fucking property away. God forbid, we don't want to do that. God forbid, that's not, your property taxes aren't a problem. And the maintenance cost of your house goes up through the materials, the labor, because the cost of materials have gone up. That's not a problem. Food's going up. That's not a problem. No one knows where it's at. Like I said, I voted for Trump twice. So I would be a hypocrite if I told you I didn't. Or a liar if I told you I didn't. So when I give a biased perspective, I do it because I grade the presidents on what they do, not what they say. Unfortunately, people like what they want to hear and none of what they see. They believe more what they hear and less of what they see. And it's easy to get caught into that. Somebody's funny, charismatic. Trump, he's a great talker. Well, at some point he was. I don't really think he's that good anymore. He's just more of a failed troll now. He's more of a corporate level troll, a corporate level failed troll, Democratic businessman. If I had to sum his presidency up in this specific time, 2016, 2017 was his best years. And what happened? He let the Democrats take over. He couldn't sign any legislation. He made excuses. And then it was his idea to shut the country down, not Joe Biden's. This just irritates me when I hear the word Joe Biden's fault. I'm like, yeah, it was his fault for the second and the third stimulus, but the first one was under Trump. The shutdown of the company was under Trump. Who sided with Dr. Fauci? Donald J. Trump. And the Republican Party stood right next to him, bearing hands and everything. Yeah, you got to shut the country down. Yeah, this thing is spread rampant. Don't worry about going to work. Don't worry about your bills, you know? Who was saying all that? Donald J. Trump. His signature is on the letterhead. People forget that. They don't talk about that. But as soon as Biden jumps in office, I'm not saying he didn't drive that wrench. He did. But Trump planted the wrench there, and then Biden grabbed it and said, I'll do one better. That's the way you want to use it. Donald Trump is just a failed troll at this point. He's just a troll and not even doing a good job at it. Now he's just a corporate level guy. He's a guy you're not really going to see too much on the news anymore. All the things will be done at the corporate level. It's like working under a CEO who's never there. That's just where he is at this time. Trump is more involved in the wars than he is elsewhere, than he is taking care of the people here and addressing the issues here. America first. What happened to that saying? What happened about that? What happened to that, by the way? America first. I'm just curious if anybody wants to tell me what happened to America first. Because it seems like to me it's everybody else and then us last. And then by the time it never gets to us. So we just kind of sit and wait. Frustrating as it is, it's I could go on and on and on all night about this shit. I know my Texans play tomorrow against the Broncos, so at least I'll be somewhat happy. You know, they got NFL Sunday tomorrow. Congratulations, by the way, to the Los Angeles Dodgers for winning the World Series. I DM'd a really good friend of mine named Pasquale, a.k.a. Pistol in the 213, who's a YouTuber. I don't know if he really makes videos anymore like he used to, but give you a shout out. Congratulations on winning the World Series. Dodgers win 3 out of the last 5 years, won 2 in a row. Kershaw goes in retirement. And, he gets to sell in the sunset for the LA Dodgers. Hey, bro, read my comments of the Epstein files. They're going to release the Epstein files the same day before Charlie Kirk. Distracted that in sync. Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that. Well, I didn't know. Oh, my bad. I didn't know that. Holy shit, Donovan. I learned something new today from you. Congratulations. No, Marvin, other than that, Marvin said this is one of your best videos in a long time. I like your fucking political rant videos. Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate it. Like I said, if I rant, like let's say, for example, people ask me this all the time. Mr. Rose, if you ran for office, what would your first thing be to be done? Well, the first thing I would do is I would file for a state of emergency in the real estate market. The second thing I would do is I would cut property taxes the very first day I'm in office. That's it. I would sign legislation that would ban property taxes in all 50 states. I think that's how many states we have, right? 50? I hope so. Y'all count Puerto Rico as a state? Because if so, I can cut their property taxes if they have any. I'll cut them too. But yeah, I would cut property taxes in all 50 states. I would do what's called setting the tone. Set the tempo right away. I'm not going to give you 30 to 60 days till whether you want to like me or not. I'm going to give you something to remember me. First day in office, filing a state of emergency on real estate. And then second, I'm cutting property taxes. After that, I'm cutting property taxes. I'm going right to revisit the real estate property laws in this country. And first of all, you got to be a citizen to purchase property here. And secondly, there's going to be for all these investors and corporations that are involved in real estate, you're going to have a limit as to how many units and condos you can buy. And if I have to go in and change that LLC law that allows you to open up all these different LLCs, but you could sit there, it's under one umbrella under the same damn name, well, that's going to come to an end. That's going to come to an end real quick because we see the loopholes, what you're doing. We know exactly what you're doing, and we're going to put a stop to that. And we're going to set the limit as to how many units of condos you can have. Enough is enough. Enough is enough. And so by eliminating property taxes, we are now including the smaller guy and the middle guy in the conversation now, which are most Americans fall under that based on their income bracket. So you no longer have to be fearful of losing your property to a corporation anymore. That fear is gone. It doesn't matter if they build a 3-story mansion next door to you. Your property taxes will not go up. In fact, you won't even have property taxes. Therefore, no corporation can steal your property because that's what they're doing. I know what they're doing, bro. They're not pulling the wool over my eyes. You can clearly see that's what they're doing. See, I didn't have a problem with guys like investors that invested in real estate because they would just flip a house here, flip a house there. I remember when I was in foundation 10 years ago, they were doing that shit. I saw a bunch of guys from New York and Boston because it was the higher cost of living up there, right? Those properties, but they came down here and you could buy 3 houses for one house in Boston. Well, that was a steal, but it wasn't too many of them involved. I remember my father had told me, and he was the one that taught me the business. He said, son, it's all good now, but if corporations get involved in real estate, we're screwed. Like, it's really going to get bad if they allow corporations to get involved in the real estate market. And he was not lying. 10 years from now, everything is corporatized. From the real estate market to the stock markets to just you going on any websites or you go into an event, it's all corporatized now. They're constantly shoving advertisements and sponsorships down your throat every 5 seconds. I feel like they're trying to force me to buy stuff. Have you guys ever, let's just say, accuse you of being a puppet and controlled opposition? How would you prove them wrong and make them eat their words? Well, through my actions. Like I said, the first day in office, I would cut property taxes. I think people in general would love the shit out of me if the oligarchs of the left and the right would hate me because they're like, oh, how dare you not have us steal any more property? How dare you kicking out your old grandmother out of her house because she can't afford the rising cost of property taxes? I build a mansion in her neighborhood. How fucking dare you? So it stops them from doing that. It does. That's what property tax is for. It's just to take your property by rising the raising cost of your property taxes. If you own the property, why should you continue to pay property taxes? That's a scam. It's for the oligarchs to take it. That's the plan. It's a stipend. They know eventually you're going to be too old to work. They know it. So they're going to say, okay, well, we're going to build a mansion here. Oh, no big deal. We know the neighborhood's 60 years old. And that mansion is going to raise the whole entire cost of that neighborhood up. The property up. Not the fact that they did any additions to the property, like any room additions or any sort of maintenance work. It's just the fact that that mansion's there automatically raises that property value of the subdivision. So therefore, these people are put in a position to have to make a decision. Okay, you're 70 years old, you're 75, you're in retirement, you're not making much on a fixed income. I can't really afford this property tax, and then still have to cover the cost of the maintenance, cost of the house, buying food, stuff like this, et cetera, gas. Am I going to be able to afford it? Well, probably not for most retirees, no. So they're going to say, well, I'm probably better off selling it and downgrading to an RV park or some sort of like smaller house. And from what I'm been reading, a lot of people that are selling their homes, like retirees, they're just downgrading the RV parks, or they'll get a trailer and maybe buy a piece of property. They shouldn't have to do that. Which, if they want to, that's fine, but they shouldn't be forced into it. And I feel like corporations are forcing you to have to change your lifestyle. They're forcing it, forcing it through legislation, forcing it through legislation, forcing it through sponsorship ads, forcing it. They're forcing you to do these things. They're not leaving it up to you to make that decision through a conscious decision. They want you to do it off of desperation. Well, how desperate are you going to be if you can't afford the property taxes? That's wrong. That's just fucking wrong. At least by eliminating property taxes, it really sets the tone, and it helps most property owners retain their property. And I'm not just saying on the poor end, or middle income, I'm saying on everybody. You eliminate those property taxes, dude. I mean, shit, there's some people pay 50 grand a year in property taxes. Hell, the subdivision here pays 4,000 annually. That's $4,000. You can use that towards other bills. You shouldn't have to be paying that. You go to the Lakes of Brightwater estates, some houses pay up to $10,000 a year in property taxes. Houses already paid. That $10,000 can go towards other bills. It makes a big difference. I think by cutting property taxes, it really includes the middle guy, and it includes the smaller guy. And I mean by income status wise. It includes everybody in the conversation. You know, it sets the tone. And my bill would be called Setting the Tone legislation. I thought of that name the other day. I thought it was kind of cool. So like the first day in office, it's called Set the Tone legislation. And if you elect me as president, I will sign that bill the first day in office on national television and sign the bill. And then they'll just, and get that rolling, man. And I'm like, no, we're going to get this bill signed and we're going to get it effective immediately. Why wait? You know, I know sometimes you got to wait for the law to go in effect. Like sometimes I think by the state level, it's like September here in Texas. But in the federal level, I don't think you have to wait. You can just sign it right in action. I'm just like, fuck it. Why wait? When I get elected, what is it, January 21st or 19th, you get sworn in. 21st, your first day. The 22nd, I'm signing that bill right off the bat. There's no need to wait till July 4th. You know, Trump's trying to make himself look cool by waiting until July 4th. Like, who the fuck cares? People are struggling. They don't care when you sign a damn bill. Just get it goddamn signed. And that worthless bill anyway was crap anyway. Talking about not tipping on overtime, but like 80% of the jobs aren't even hiring, let alone giving overtime, let alone giving you 40 hours a week, let alone even giving you overtime. It's pointless. That was a pointless bill to sign. Tariffs, you know, trying to bend China's arm. What ended up happening? Nothing happened on that. It's a stalemate. And who gets affected? The consumers. Us, the consumers. Those costs roll right down to us, man. How does that sound? You know, how does that sound? It sounds good with sarcasm, by the way. It's, that's why I say this EBT thing is just a big distraction and people are getting angry over it. Just like people are getting angry over this gender war crap that's going on about the whole, like, it's all men's fault, it's all women's fault. I know y'all see these videos going around and, women don't want to take no accountability. And of course, men aren't motivated to work. I mean, maybe there's a little truth to some of those things, but it's not entirely accurate. It's just a distraction. At the end of the day, it's all distraction, man. Not to mention, we might have to go into World War III, and that's even scary as it sounds. Definitely scary. I definitely don't want to see a World War III in my lifetime. But it looks like we might be heading down that direction. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Scary thinking about it. You ever shop on Amazon and use gift cards? Yeah. It's a big distraction. Absolutely. Hey, greetings. Yeah, people will say I'm controlled opposition. Many people will say I'm a plant for the Democratic Party. And some people will say that I'm a plant for the Republican Party because I'm vouching for Rand Paul. I'm a big fan of his. He's just not popular. Unfortunately, they'd rather have Dum Dum in office, which is Trump, who's economically challenged and has no idea how to run the country economically wise or legislation wise. He's just a failed troll at this point, and it's just distasteful watching it. That's why the last election I didn't even vote. I just completely stayed out of it. It's just like I don't want nothing to do with this vote. Trump versus Biden part infinity. I'm tired of this shit. You know, the next election, which even I'm hearing the rumors, is Trump may run again. It's like, are you kidding me? Another fucking term? Another 4 years? Oh my God. Another 4 years with this Democrat in office. Oh my God. This is terrible. A guy who's all for corporations, a guy who's pro-war, a guy who is big government, a guy who doesn't follow through on his promises. It's just a disaster. It's a disaster. It's literally a joke if he gets elected again. It's just a joke. I mean, the whole like, well, you can only run 2 terms. Well, I'm going to change the rules and, you know, I'm going to change it to where I can run a 3rd term. It's like, well, why not run a 4th term? Why not run a 5th term? Well, how old is Trump now? 80? Well, if you could live to be 120, you can run for 10 more terms. Or maybe I'm over exaggerating, but you can run, what, 5 more? What's stopping you? Why not? If the rules are meant to be broken, why follow them to begin with? Or better yet, it's rules for me, but not thee. If you look at legislation and laws, they're only meant for the common man to follow. If you're part of the left or the right pro-establishment, top of the echelons in this economy, those rules are really forbidden for you. You don't really have to follow them. Like if you look at COVID, that was another case. You saw the rich flying around in their Learjets and stuff. It didn't stop them from having their parties and having their fun. No, but the common man on the street, you were told to stay inside the house. You were like, no, you got to stay inside the house, man. You can't work, man. The bugs going around, man. The bugs going around. And then your jobs were threatening to fire you because you refused to take the jab. And it's funny because the people on the left were saying, oh, you know, you need to take the jab. And I'm like, really? But you want me to stand up for your rights. But then when it was impeding my personal rights, you were telling me, no, I didn't have that choice. So that's why when they stand up there and have the nerve to say my body, my choice, I'm like, well, where was it my choice to take the jab if I didn't want to take it? Were you there fighting for my rights? No. So why should I fight for yours? So why should I fight for your right when you could have cared less about mine? You didn't give a shit about my right to refuse to take the jab, and you told me I was forced to take the jab, that you have to do it. It was a life or death manner. Okay, but this jab has side effects. Oh, well, you still have to do it. Oh, so you want me to take all the risk. So as long as it doesn't affect you, you're fine about that. But then when it came to your rights, you wanted me to sit there and fend for you. Huh. That's crazy. That's why I say you don't get to argue about my body, my choice anymore, because when it was my right to not take the jab, you didn't defend my right. So therefore, you lost the privilege to say your right as well. You've lost that privilege when you told me I was forced to take the jab. Or else I was going to face termination. So in my personal opinion, you lost that right to make your argument now. Well, I appreciate it. Like I said, the problem is that a lot of these guys that run for office, they're backed by corporations. And so basically, in order for you to get sponsored through corporations, you have to basically pass a lot of bills that would either put them in or leave them out. So if you were to have a normal guy like myself run or somebody else run, right? That's like a normal guy that's in touch with the regular guys, the regular person, you'd have to be probably most likely funded by, well, you'd have to get your name out there first, and then you would have to have people fund you. It would have to be non-corporatized sponsorship. And it's gonna be a hard fight, because when you're going against a machine like that, you're gonna get a lot of kickback. You're gonna get a lot of fighting back, and you're going to get some politicians that are backed by these sponsorships, which means they're probably going to be backed by the dollar. And it's going to be a hard fight. But what we would have to do as people is we would have to elect those in office that we really stand behind, that's going to fight for the everyday person. And we're going to have to fund those people through donations. I guess you call it a GoFundMe, but donations, whatever you want to call it, and have them go based on that, and fight for the regular Joe. Because if we keep depending on these oligarchs to fight for us, they're just going to let us down. They're not going to fight for our rights. They're not going to fight for what we want to see done. Like, what president is going to fight for term limits, right? Like, any president elect today. If you were to say, I want you to put term limits on the Congress, the House, the Senate, and all this, I mean, let's think about it like that. You really going to see a candidate that's really going to back us like that? No, they're not going to do that. We need somebody that's going to do that. That's going to impose these laws, these bills, this legislation that puts those term limits on. How about let's get rid of property taxes? Well, the oligarchs aren't going to be happy, and corporations definitely aren't going to be happy about that. So we would probably have to have somebody on the smaller end that's going to get a huge back end by the public, and thus you know is going to have to be funded. But again, it's not going to be easy going against the machine. It's definitely not. They're definitely going to put up a fight, and they're not going to go down easy. Unfortunately, this is the times that we live in currently. We need a motivational speaker, Tony Robbins. Oh, I would love to have that. I would love to be the president. I mean, there's no doubt about it. If I eliminate property taxes in the first day, I think whether you're left or right, the common man would fall in love with me instantly. Doesn't matter if you're a billionaire or somebody on the short end, because the fact is, well, shit, if I pay my house off, well, other than paying my house off in maintenance fees, my house is never going to leave my possession unless I sell it. So let's say you were out of work for 6 months, and that happens, right? You don't have to lose your property because, well, unless you still own the house. But if the house is paid off, you wouldn't have to worry about, where am I going to sleep tonight? Where's my head going to be on a pillow tonight? You know, even if you were out of work for 5 years, I'm not suggesting that, but let's just say you're out of work for 5 years. You wouldn't have to worry about losing your house. You hear these stories about our veterans not being taken care of. You hear the stories about mental illness and PTSD and all these mental illnesses that are going around untreated. You hear about these places that are unfunded. You hear about the homeless crisis. You hear about, our poor here and how they're not looked after, how they're not taken care of. You hear these things, and it eats you alive inside as a person, because we live in one of the richest nations in the world, and we should be taking care of Americans first. And somehow Donald Trump does not exercise that right at all. Now, you may like him, and that's okay, because I used to like him too. A long time. I was a big fan of his in 2016. I even vouched for him in the not this election, but the previous one in 2020 that he lost to Biden. I was a big fan of Donald Trump. Big fan. In fact, before the election, this election, I was still somewhat of a moderate Donald Trump fan to a degree. But what turned me off of Trump, and I'll tell you what kind of made me go a little bit swayed about Trump, is the fact that based on his past to present, he really kind of didn't. Okay, if you look at, like, other than the big beautiful bill and the lowest tax, taxes were low in 2016 to 17. And what was the other one? The other bill that he did that was okay. It was I can't think of it. Pulse Prodigal Hill knows what I'm talking about. I'll probably have to ask him because this doesn't dawn on me. But there's a couple of things he did that I liked. But if you did most of the things that he did, was not, I did not agree with. Okay. And the way he handled COVID was terrible. Just, it was terrible. Um, yeah, I mean, his part in it. Not saying Biden didn't have his responsibility. I'm saying Trump's part in it. Trump's little part that he had in COVID was handled terribly. He has a tendency to fold into Democrats. He has a tendency to fold into their policies. He has a tendency to be lazy. And he's a little bit arrogant to a degree, too. And he's economically challenged when it comes to how the economy should be run. I never would have thought Trump would have surpassed Obama's deficit. He did. And he might even surpass Joe Biden's. Wow. It's crazy. But remember, EBT is the problem. That's the problem, the big problem. Not that I'm suggesting that Republicans should go and sign a bipartisan bill now. No, they should, go and look over everything. But if they're centering EBT as the main problem, if that's what the Republican Party is going to say, hey, look, the EBT is the biggest problem, that's the biggest issue of why we won't sign anything, we got bigger problems on our hand than EBT. I can tell you that right now. And if you're not worried about property taxes, you're not worried about the fact that our dollar's taxed 6 to 8 times over, you don't worry about the fact that the income taxes that is a scam, that the state taxes is another scam, that the dollar's being taxed 6 to 8 times over, and the rising cost in your food bill, the rising cost with the tariffs, the rising cost also with the gold card, and Trump wants to bring in these rich foreign investors here. Wow. Keeping Obama's censorship bills, not repealing H.R. 5736, not repealing H.R. 5181, which is why my channel shadow banned as of right now. As you can tell, 8 viewers, 3,000 subs. I mean, do the math. And it's not just my channel. There's a guy I know, he's pretty cool. He has 1.54 million subs. He gets 10,000 views of video, which sounds like a lot, but if you think about it, it's really not shit for that amount of views he's got. What he has on his view count is equivalent to what I have on mine. Me getting 200 views of video for 3,000 subs is equivalent to him, but on a bigger scale because he's got more subs. This is insane, man. This whole country has been corporatized. Like, dude, I don't know if you guys watch wrestling, but I was watching a wrestling event the other day, right? Just for shits and giggles. And I was like, I'm going to watch wrestling because I was bored, right? So I'm flipping through the channels or whatever. And anyways, I was watching wrestling and I saw in the middle of the ring, there was like 4 different advertisement companies in just the ring. And that's not including all around the ring ropes and the ring mat and the floor mat and right by the table. It was like, dude, they have corporate sponsorships on every little corner you turn. It's like, you have to shove this shit down my throat. I don't even feel like I'm watching wrestling. I feel like I'm just watching like an advertisement or a sponsorship ad. You just trying to force me to buy something. Same thing with basketball. I was watching the Kings the other day. They were playing, I think they were playing at home. I want to say it was maybe Denver or something. or the Clippers, something like that, were in town. It was the beginning of the season, and they let Westbrook do his little intro where he like threw the powder in the air like LeBron does, and they were welcome in the Sacramento. But anyways, um, I look on theirs. They have like some Sacramento Kings on their court. They have like some credit union. I forgot what it's called, right? But they got a credit union that sponsors their team, right? On both sides of the court, they got the sponsorship ad there. On the basketball goal, they got the advertisements on three different parts of the goalpost. Then they got it on like the little, like, they got it on like the little advertisements where the announcers' booths are at. And then they just stamp it on your TV. And it's like, how much of this crap do I have to see? Like, okay, I get it, it's a credit union, but how much like sponsorship ads do we have to see? Then on their jersey, there's like four different sponsorships on there. There's like four different ads on their jersey. When you go and buy a jersey, like I think for the Mavericks, and Donovan knows, for the Mavericks, it's Chime. And for the Rockets, I forgot what ours is, but you got like four different advertisements literally sitting on a jersey. It's like, dude, do you have to force this shit down our throat with sponsorship ads and corporate sponsorship ads? Do you have to force this shit down our fucking throat? Like, Jesus fucking Christ. Even on YouTube, for example, if you don't believe me, just go watch like a movie. They have like all these like B-rated film movies and stuff I've been obsessed in watching lately, right? So I'll go and I'll watch a movie, right? And they, back in the day, it used to be maybe one or two or three or four ads, right? You would just have a couple ads and it would be like 30 seconds, 15 seconds, and you just hit the skip button. You're like, that's cool. I hit the skip button. All right, cool. No, no worries, right? Now it's just I feel like you're doing it every 5 minutes. There's like ads popping up. So like if you go and you lay down to watch a movie on YouTube, you're basically fighting through ads like every 5 minutes in a 2 hour film. That's a little like obsessive. That's too much. I shouldn't have to. Yeah, you did get shadow banned on Instagram, Facebook. I remember you were telling me about that, Donovan, the other day. On Instagram, you were sharing with me that story. But yeah, but I feel like every 5 minutes it's nothing but sponsorship ads. And it's like, okay, one or two or three or four ads is fine, but not every 5 minutes. I shouldn't have to sit here and go through all these ads. Then YouTube's like, oh, well, you have to pay now if you don't want those ads to appear on there. I'm like, I'm not paying you nothing. Why am I going to pay you? I'm not doing that shit. I'm not paying for them damn ads not to appear. No, fuck that. So I'll just sit there and just wait till the skip button. Boom, skip, skip. And every 5 minutes it's skip, 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 skip. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I got 7 viewers, man. Hit that like button real quick. I got 2 likes. Somebody show me some love and give me like a third and a fourth like, man. I really appreciate that. But yeah, it's when I grew up watching wrestling, it used to be they would have one advertisement ad and it would say Stacker 2, which was like some sort of like, I guess it would be like those 5 hour energy drinks, right? So the Stacker 2 ad would pop up, right? So you would take a little swig of the Stacker 2 ad and that's it. And it would be like a little ad it would have, and it would be like on the TV advertisement. Now it's like it's all over the ring. It's all over the ring rope. It's all over the t-shirts and everything. And it's like, dude, how many times do we have to like be shoved down our throat with advertisement ads? I know you guys know what I'm talking about. The shit is trash. Like basketball, it's the same thing. Football is almost the same thing. It's nothing but sponsorship ads and corporate ads. It's just a complete corporation takeover of the United States. So if you really want to talk about the main problem is EBT, no, the main problem is corporate takeover, AI takeover, which obviously we're not going to be able to stop the takeover of AI. The guy who commented earlier is correct. But nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about how these corporations are stealing land and they're using the government to back them up. Nobody talks about it. Nobody blinks an eye. Nobody says anything. But remember, EBT is the problem, even though they're stealing billions of dollars out of our pockets for due to taxpayers. But nobody, and then remember insider trading, the insider trading that they've done, they accumulate all this money. You can't steal if you don't know the numbers and who's giving them the inside information. That lies the question. So insider trading. Remember George Bush Jr. knew all about that when he decided to cash his assets in a week before the credit cards collapsed, before the stock market collapsed. George Bush Jr. knew miraculously to cash in his assets. I wonder how he knew that, by the way. His stockbroker agent told him that, which is against the law. I would be facing 10 to 20 years in prison for that. But yet George Bush Jr. gets a pass because he's part of the oligarchs. He gets a pass. Oh, no, George Bush Jr., he gets away with it. He gets a pass, right? No one talks about that. No one discusses that. No one discusses how Trump is a two-time criminal. And the only reason why he's in power is because of his dad. He is a failed Democratic businessman. And yeah, I said it. He is what it is. He's a failed Democratic businessman troll. That's for large corporations. He's really no different than Barack Obama. I keep telling you guys this. Well, before I privated my videos, I used to tell you this on a daily basis, that Donald Trump is nothing more than a modern version of Barack Obama. I'm trying to explain it to you. He is a leftist. He is a Democrat. He is not a Republican at all. He's not a centrist, as they say, or he is an independent running as a Republican. He is a true conservative. Bull fucking shit. This guy is a failed Democratic businessman, and he is nothing more than a corporatized puppet. You can make the argument that he's controlled opposition. I've made videos before accusing him of being a Democrat. People told me I was crazy saying these things. Well, how do I look now? Partially right. Partially right. Or maybe even halfway right now. But look, you know what? I'll come back to that question next June, next year. Because by then, Trump will have been in office for way over a year. At that point, it'll be like, what, year and a half? So we'll have an opportunity to evaluate his presidency a little bit more finally. Because he's been in office for what's about to be November. So what is it? February, March, April. February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October. So like 10 months. Because January next year will be a year. So then you got to figure, okay, well, that'll be... Yeah, okay, so by the 21st of November, it'll be his 10th month that he's been in office. All right. Just add another year to that. We'll go by it. And maybe next fall, we'll kind of evaluate his presidency. He's just more of a corporate guy. Nothing really strikes me as him as, he's fighting for the common man. He's fighting for the common person. He's fighting for, for us, the small guys. It's like, no, I don't see that at all. Maybe the 8 of you may disagree with me. Maybe y'all may think I'm the problem. I don't know. I'll tell you this, though. I'm not the one that raised the debt ceiling to astronomical levels. I'm not the guy that didn't repeal H.R. 5736 and H.R. 5181. I'm not the guy that, that made the gold card and made rich investors from foreign countries come here and make it easier for them to buy property. Oh, no, I didn't do that. And by the way, all those gold cards that Trump sold, shouldn't we use that towards the deficit? No, we're not going to use that towards the deficit. Trump said, we're going to get $5,000 back of taxes that was stolen from us. But we got to pay the deficit off with that money. So I'm sorry, guys, you're not going to be able to receive any of that money after all. Remember all that bullshit? We're going to give Americans a check. You're going to need a $5,000 check. That's money that was stolen from you. Remember when he said that bullshit? Have you ever heard anything about that now? Nope. Because you know why? They pocketed all that money. They pocketed that shit. It didn't even go towards the debt. You say, Trump, did it go towards the debt? You know, the 12 million you put in there? Oh no, did it? Or better yet, is going to carve down some of that 14 trillion that Biden put in, or the $10 trillion that Obama put in? Nope. Where did all that money go? Oh well, we had to put it on war because you know it's important that we have to get these. I'm like, bro, we need to fix the issues here before anyone else. That's the problem. Our money's going other places than where it should be going and not fixing the issues here. Even the infrastructure is trash here. The roadways are trash. Potholes everywhere. You know, it doesn't take a rocket science just to figure that out. This is the truth. You know, so you got all these things happening. And all of our tax dollars is not even being used to fix infrastructure. But yet that's part of where our taxes are supposed to be going towards. So where do you explain where this money's just sit? I doubt this money's sitting somewhere. It's probably being put in other people's pockets that shouldn't be getting it. You know, we're talking about some serious federal laws here being broken. And again, the conversation is about, well, those poor people on EBT sure need to get up and get a job, don't they? That person getting that $400 of EBT, that goddamn motherfucker needs to be working like $400 of food stamps is really the issue, right? Wow. You know, it's just we take a small little problem and try to make it a big problem that's bigger than the other problems that are bigger than this problem that we have, or the problem with the EBT. We got bigger fish to fry, but yet we're more concerned about a smaller little pebble. I say we fix the tax code here first. Then we go into the real estate and try to take the corporations out the real estate market by getting rid of the property taxes. That's how we start off with it first. Let's go ahead and repeal those 5736 and 5181 and give people their Second Amendment back, or First Amendment, freedom of speech, sorry. You give them their amendment back. Stop these big tech companies from what? From censoring us. Shadow banning us. Get rid of 5736. HR 5181. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. Let's do that. Hey, Trump, man, I got this idea. What about getting rid of 5736, 5181? No, we don't need to do that. What we need to do, we need to worry about China. And we put those tariffs on China. And we do that. And China will be forced. We will force their hand. I'm like, really? The China owns all the raw materials and all the equipment. We don't have hardly any factories here. You know, what happened to the old steel mill jobs that you talked about bringing jobs back? Well, no, we need to worry about the war, and we got Russia on our ass, and this, and this, and China. He goes, China. It's just a bunch of just trolling shit that comes out of his mouth. It's just more troll. He's just a failed fucking troll. He's not even funny anymore. At least when Trump first got in office, he was a little bit funny, and I'm not gonna lie, it made me laugh. Some of the things he said was kind of funny. And that was one of the things that I liked about him. He was a funny guy. And I enjoyed listening to him because he was funny. He was a good troll. He was a troll, but he was good at it. Now he's not funny anymore. He's corny as shit, and he's a failed troll. That's the Trump we got in office. A corporatized, failed troll. And I digress. Lord. What turned into a 10-minute video has turned into an hour and 40-minute video. And I really feel like I could talk all night. But I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to sit here and talk all night. But of course, people here are like, oh, those goddamn EBT motherfuckers, they need to get up and get a goddamn job. I'm like, really? So they're the problem. You're talking about somebody maybe collected $400 worth of food stamps is really ruining your day. Like, and let's just say there's a person that maybe, being fraudulent and they're getting like $500 in food stamps. Yeah, that's a problem, but that's not a big problem. The big problem is our taxation in this country. The big problem is the taxes in this country. We need tax reform. We need term limits. We need the government to balance their budget. Goddamn, I'm told every day I got to balance my own budget. I have to balance my own. You're told, the 8 viewers in here, you're told you have to balance your budget every day. Let's get some elected officials in office that are more in touch with the common person rather than large corporations and large oligarch billionaires that support their agendas. How about we, get people elected in office that are from our neck of the woods, that are from, our neck of the income, that are more in touch with us instead of in touch with large corporations and billionaires and are being funded by them to run. And so, if Trump and or Biden and or Obama and or this and or that, it's got all these corporations that are funded behind them. They know that they're going to, whatever president wins, as long as they can get their shit funded, legislation written to either include them or exclude them, they're going to continue to support those politicians. So really those politicians are only supporting the corporations that are backing them. They're not really there for the common people. They're not there for me. They're not there for Donovan Burrell. They're not there for Jair Covelin. They're not there for, let me look in the comment section, for Marvin. They're not there for Will Ferrell. They're not there for Lincoln Potter. They're not there for, User. If he's still in here. Let's see who else. Dante Johnson. They're not there for us. Jonathan Portwood. I'm just, shouting out the people that were watching the video either in the past or currently. Just saying. These politicians are not here to fight for us. It's time we really need to evaluate how we go to the polls. In my personal opinion, in 2028, because that's the next election, of course, you're going to have these small elections down here, city official, county judges and stuff you got to vote for, and municipal court judges, and, you got to vote for this person, the mayor, and vote for this. I get those. I'm not saying they're not important. But that next election that's coming up, which is 2028 election, I'm telling you guys right now, my personal opinion is we really would have to start pre-selecting our candidates 2 years prior. Next year, really start evaluating who's running, what idea do we have, do our ideas line with theirs, and kind of go from there. And if we can't get any candidates that are willing to fight for the common person, I know this sounds un-American to say, but what I would suggest is that we don't vote at all. None of us vote, meaning we don't go to the polls. No one votes, right? So if Trump says, hey, I'm going to run again in 2028, and then Biden comes out and is like, well, I think I'm good to go again. I'm going to go ahead. I want my rematch. We don't have to put up with that shit. We don't have to put up with that. We're done. So we could just say, okay, we're not voting. We're not going to participate. We're not fucking voting for either one of you clowns. And we're going to sit this out. So we're going to allow this shit show circus to really be the spotlight of the national news. So by nobody voting, you know how embarrassing that's going to be when they have to go count votes and they can't count them because there's no ballots, because people are just fed up and they're just like, we're not voting anymore. We're sick of this. We're not playing your fucking game anymore. We're not allowing you to troll us anymore. Fuck with us. We're just not going to vote. We're just going to exercise our right to not vote. Go ahead. And then we don't vote and let this shit show take place. Oh, well, Congress can still elect the president if you guys don't vote. Well, that's good. Let them. Because at this point, it's really going to show the bullshit and just say, we're not going to deal with this. We would have, in order for Americans to really take charge, we would have to take ourselves out of the game. That's the only strategy that I could see if we can't start having an actual rehaul on how we can elect candidates. We'd have to say, okay, you're going to go with oligarchs again? All right, we're not playing this game. We're not voting. So go ahead, run Trump again. Put him up against Biden for a third time. Go ahead, do it. But this time, we're not voting. We're not going to walk to the polls. We're not going to listen to you. You can sit there and lower gas prices so people, which is all bullshit anyway. They'll sit there and they'll tell the gas company, say, lower that gas down by 50 cents. So that way they have enough gas to go down there to vote. And it's like, go ahead. You can lower the gas down. You can say, okay, I'm going to lower the gas prices down. It's just like, no, we're not going to vote. And so what? If nobody votes, then Congress has to elect the president. You know how much of a joke that's going to be? Dead ass. How much of a joke that's going to be if Congress has to elect the president? Think how that sounds. Congress elects the president in 2028 because the voters got sick of it and said enough is enough. You know how many times you have to hear these dumbass politicians say, you need to go out to the voting polls and go vote. You need to go out to the polls and go vote. After a while, you get sick of it. You get tired of it. You get sick of hearing it. It's voting for a presidency used to be fun. You used to do your research. You would ask these candidates questions. They would answer it for you. Now they don't even do that anymore. They just run around your questions. They don't answer it. They troll on TikTok. And then they just spend basically taking personal shots at each other. It's sort of like what we do as content makers when we all enter a Google chat room. Remember, we used to be Google Chat, guys, back in the day? We used to do Google Hangouts, and then they changed it to StreamYard. It's the same thing. It's like you go on these public platforms and you just start roasting each other. Like, if you guys ever played a Call of Duty, on a server, and you go in there and everyone's just talking shit to each other, it's just basically that's what it is. It's just all these candidates will go in there, they'll go into the room, and they'll just start taking personal shots and start roasting each other. And people get entertained by that. They get entertained by that crap. They get entertained by it. It's like fool the masses. I think it's now. If you look at it, they know they got everybody right where they want them. Like a modern slave. And they know they got you in that mindset, then they can almost do anything they want. Hell, they don't even have to do election, give you a good election anymore. They could just run the same two guys and they just know, hey, all you guys that like Trump, go vote for him. Hey, all you guys that like Biden, hey, go hit the polls, vote for your man, I was watching the, where they'll have the presidents that are going against each other. I think it was Trump and it was Kamala. And they'll ask them questions about, they'll give the microphone to people, rather CNN or Fox. They'll let their audience ask them a question. If you go back and you watch Kamala Harris and Trump when they would debate, Kamala just would say, Trump's doing the same thing out the same playbook, and this is what he's doing here. He's lying to the people. was actually, I kind of give her credit, kind of partially correct. However, when Trump goes on there, he's like, Kamala Harris just, she wants to, she's doing the welfare thing and blah, blah, blah. And then he'll say, uh, they'll ask him questions on taxes, and it's just like that question is one of Trump's worst weaknesses when asking him a question in a debate is, what are your thoughts on on tax reform, preferably with the elimination of property taxes? And every time he's asked that question, he just completely deflects from it. It's if either he's just a dumbass or he just does it on purpose because he knows that he doesn't want to give into his corporate sponsorships by answering that question, which most likely the answers to my question would be both. He's a dumbass and he's not going to answer the question because he knows the corporate sponsorships are not going to like that because they're in the real estate market. They're in the real estate business. They have no business being there, but they're in it. And Trump can't sit there and back up against his buddies. And of course, the banks got Trump held by the balls because, all the money that he stole sitting in those bank accounts. And they're going to say, oh, well, you're going to not fight for us. Well, we're going to put freezes on your assets. So Trump has to play ball to a degree. He has to play ball with these corporations and stuff. And it's just like, okay, are you the guy that I thought was going to stand up against this shit? Or are you just some failed troll that just basically just swat, kind of curveballed us a little bit? Well, it kind of seems like that now. If you look at this term now, it kind of seems like he's all about large corporations. He doesn't care about job growth in this country. He doesn't care about tax reform in this country. He doesn't care about the common American people. He only cares about corporate and his sponsors and donors. That's all he cares about. I mean, it would be no different than Biden. It would be no different than Barack Obama. I'm not just singling Trump out and saying, hey, you're the Lone Ranger in here. Hey, it's just you that's doing it. No, it's a lot of these candidates that are unfortunately are like this. I thought Trump would be different. But I kind of lost a little bit of faith for him probably towards this current election process and how he was dodging questions about tax reform, how he was dodging the questions of term limits. He didn't want to address any of it. And I think it's because he knew his sponsorships, donors and advertisers weren't going to be too thrilled about hearing that. And so Trump just said, well, fuck it. I'm just not going to address it. I'm just not going to put any attention into that. And they'll just go away. Well, it may go away to you, but it's not going to go away to a lot of the common folks down here that are struggling as our bills continue to increase while jobs are getting cut, wages staying stagnant, cost of living's going up. Eventually he can't avoid it forever. He's still going to have his supporters, and that's okay. There's still going to be people that are going to say, well, if Trump decides to run in 2028, I'll probably vote for him. They're going to say that. And I'm going to say if you're going to vote for him, it would be under what circumstances? Like, my question is, how did the economy, because this economy is trash, by the way. It's terrible. Anybody that tells me otherwise is just dead wrong. This economy, it sucks. It sucks. And there's no way to put around it. Under what circumstances of Trump's current presidency would merit him being elected again, even though technically he's not supposed to run no more than 2 times? What argument could you make that bases him to win another term? That's all I'm saying. I don't care about him being the orange man and all that. I want to know what basis was he under that determined him to be, eligible to run for a third time. People aren't going to have that answer. They're just going to say, well, the reason why I can't do it is those damn Democrats keep, and I'm like, really? So how much of the blame is going to continue to be put on the Democrats before we actually start evaluating what Trump is doing versus what he is saying? This is a big difference. The big difference. And Again, this is almost a 2 hour video. Jesus Christ, I didn't try to make it this long. If I bored you guys, I apologize, okay? I do. If I, you know, if you didn't find this video entertaining, I understand. Politics is an ugly game. It can get dirty. Even having these talks right now, people get upset. If you talk shit about, you know, whichever candidate you talk shit about, you're going to piss off half of your audience. So if you talk shit about Trump, you'll piss half your audience off. If you talk shit about Biden, you'll piss half of your audience off. Oh, you love Tony Robbins? Yeah, Tony Robbins is a beast, man. He's badass. Like I said, I'd love to run for president. I would need a lot of donors from the common people and assets. Like basically just a bunch. I would love to run. Absolutely. I would love to run as president. I would love to run. But it's going to, like I said, I would have to get sponsorship. I'm just a common guy. I don't have that much money to run. But if I ran, I'd have to have people donate, like maybe make GoFundMe. And then, of course, for people to support me, I have to tell them what I'm about. What am I running as? Well, I'm going to run for the Republican Party, but under a conservative. And I'm just going to run and do things the way I think it should be done. That's what I would do. You're probably going to call me a Democratic plant. That's fine. You're going to accuse me of working with the left. I'm like, no, your buddy in office is working for the left, not me. Not me. I'm not working for anybody. I mean, necessarily politician wise. Hey, what's up, man? Hey, Rodney, appreciate that, man. I haven't made one of these videos in a while, and I just thought I'd rub some magic dust off of it. Maybe start bringing some of these videos back. Just my wording change, but just on point. Like I said, people ask me, well, you think you know everything? I'm like, not necessarily. I don't know everything. There's something I don't know. Okay, well, if you think you know so much about the presidency, what will you do when you're in office? I'm like, well, the first day I'm filing a state of emergency on the real estate against corporations. And secondly, I'm going to eliminate property taxes. That's called setting the tone. Right, the first fucking day, January 22nd. Even though technically that would be my second day in office because the 21st technically is your first day. So it would be my second day in office. The first day I go on that podium, January 21st, I declare a state of emergency on the federal level on real estate. And then the second day I come in and say, I'm signing this emergency bill, legislation, 5839 or something, whatever name that comes up. This is bill, blah, 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 inserted in, I would write in law, it would be the banning of property taxes. Who's going to stop me? Oh, well, federal judge is going to block it. Okay, that's fine. See you in court. No, I'm signing that shit. Right off the bat. You don't think that's not going to pick up tread the first day I'm in office? You got to be kidding me. And that's just getting started. We haven't even started yet on income tax. And I'm doing a full tax reform within my first 30 days in office. And by the end of the 30 days, by February, March, I'll call it the spring break bill. I call it spring break forever, which basically means, spring break, what? You take off from school, whatever, college, or that's always known as like your vacation. So I would give it kind of something cool, right? So I would call it the spring break bill. And basically, it's a tax reform bill. And I'm essentially going to do a rehaul of all of our taxes and impose a flat tax. I'm not going to be too popular. Amongst both parties, they're probably going to want me dead. But at least I get the engine rolling. I'm tuning up. I can guarantee you by eliminating property taxes, I'm gonna take a lot of voters from both parties. Because even though I'm running as a Republican, as a true conservative, not like Donald Trump, who's a Democratic plant, I would actually deliver on the promises. I don't think my Republican constituents would like me, and I don't think the Democrat Party, the oligarchs on both sides that are involved in real estate, are going to hate my guts because I'm actually addressing the one of the biggest problems in this country right now is the real estate market and the fraud that's going on in there, money laundering, stuff like that, all that stuff. I'm addressing it all, and again, eliminating property taxes. I call it setting the tone bill. I call it setting the tone. And I'm going to sign this, bill HR 2000 or Andre 3000 or something, make a joke about it and say, but I'm dead ass. You know what I'm saying? I'm signing this bill here. This bill is going to eliminate property taxes. Tell me, the average common, I don't care if I piss the oligarchs off or corporations off. I give a shit less about them. But the people at the bottom or the middleman, or even some of these rich folks out here, they're going to love me because they're going to be saving so much money on their property taxes. Just the thought of that. They're like, whoa. I mean, Rodney, I could just imagine how much you pay a year in your property taxes. Here we pay $4,800 a year for property that we already own. That's a lot, right? I mean, am I wrong? Okay. And then, so I signed that first bill in January 22nd. I'm signing that first bill in office. It's called the setting the tone bill, elimination of property taxes. What is setting the tone bill? Eliminating property taxes. Boom, eliminated. All 50 states gone. Oh man, people are in the real estate market, like corporations and billionaires. They're gonna fucking hate me because they're gonna say, "Well, you sound like a socialist there for cutting us off from stealing fucking property from people." I'm like, no, I'm just setting the tone. I'm giving you a little taste of your own medicine, motherfucker. And this is where corporations are gonna hate me so fucking bad, dude. They're not gonna like me at all. And it's not because I'm trying to take them out of business. I'm taking them out of the market. I'm trying to stop them from taking over. That's the issue we have. Corporate greed, corporatized United States is the biggest problem right now. And it's affecting the stock market, the real estate market. And this is why people cannot grow and prosper in this country, is because they monopolized everything. Well, I'm going to fight that. If I was president, if I was your president. And, people wouldn't like me. There's going to be a certain opposition that are going to want me dead. My safety could be on the line, just hypothetically speaking. I mean, I could just imagine, the venom that's going to come out of these. They're going to want me dead. So I'm going to have high-tail security. If I'm going to give speeches, it's not going to be out in public. It's going to have to be there, like, maybe like behind a podium or something, in a room, a private room, while you kind of watch the visual monitor. I'm like, hey, it's nothing personal. I have to protect myself during these times. And when it gets a little safer, I don't mind coming out. But goddamn, I'm going to have good security. I have to wear a damn hazmat suit. And I come out and do these speeches where I end up like RFK or something. Like John F. Kennedy. I don't want to end up like that. We're just trying to help people out, trying to help the common person out, which is majority of the Americans. Let's just say, for example, out of all Donald Trump supporters that voted for him, including myself, if you took every Donald Trump supporter, including myself, that voted for him, right? So let's logically explaining this. How many of his voters do you think that any of his legislation really, truly benefits? Or how the way he's ran the economy? I would say less than maybe 10%. And I would say that's even a far guesstimate as to what the real number is. I would make the suggestion that it's probably maybe 3-4% of the voters actually benefit from his legislation or his lack thereof legislation, which are basically either corporations or corporations affiliated. You see, I'm running for the common people. If I was to run, I would run for the common person. All my donations would be strictly from the individuals, non-corporate level. Any corporations try to get involved in making donations, aka you do this for me. No, I'm not doing shit for you. No, absolutely not. I don't need your money and I don't want your money. So of course they're gonna, have to put that money towards someone else that's running, which would be my opposition, whoever was decided to run against me. Even in my own party, do the same thing. And, I'd give them a run for their money. I don't know if I'd win, but I'd give them a run for their money. I think, again, I tell the people, you can ask me 1,000 questions. I don't mind answering them. But let me ask you this. All these presidents you've had, including Donald J. Trump, have all been a failure. Can we agree? Yes, we can all agree. Okay. How would you like a president that's going to come in and set the tone day one? If you vote me in, and when you do, and when I win, I'm going to make it up to you. Day one, I'm signing the setting the tone bill, elimination of property taxes. If I become your president, I'm setting the tone right off the bat. That's what the bill is called, setting the tone. And then in March, the spring break bill comes out. I'll sign that bill the first day of spring break. So when you go on your spring break, make sure you take your vacation. It's going to be a good one. Because imagine most of the taxes being eliminated in this country and imposed into the flat tax. We'll set the flat tax at 8%. 8% of your annual income. So therefore, you're no longer paying income tax. You're no longer paying the state tax, depending on the state you're in. And you're no longer paying a property tax. To me, that's going to take stress off the average American who is having to bust their fucking ass to only be heavily taxed to death. Imagine saving, hell, the income tax alone would save you $600 a month. Just imagine what you would be saved if I cut the state tax. If I lowered those taxes down to 8%. So instead of you paying 60% of your shit towards taxes, now you're only paying 8%. So you're now saving 52% of your taxes, which in theory, if you took a whole pie out, 60% is 60, you get 50%. That means 50% of your taxes are being saved right there. Boom. You don't have to worry about losing your home if I was your president. You wouldn't have to worry about paying all these exuberant taxes. The dollar gets strengthened, and now you can reinvest that money, not only in yourself, but you can reinvest that money back in the small market. And now you have the money to support these small businesses that now are not having to worry about closing up because the landlord had to go up on the property because the property taxes has gone up. The elimination of the property taxes protects business owners as well on the small end, on the middle guy. We're now including the middle and the small guy in the conversation, and oligarchs do not want that. That's what elimination of the property tax bill does. It sets the tone. It sets the tone. God damn, I'm so passionate about these videos. And then come in March, the reform of the taxes. I'm attacking the taxes in this goddamn country. I'm sorry, excuse me for caring. I'm sorry that I care about the common person that's watching this video. I'm sorry I don't have my fucking head up the fucking oligarch's ass and large corporations' ass. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm tired of this shit. Oh, well, you need to give us tax breaks to save us fucking jobs. Meanwhile, our jobs are going overseas and AI automation's taking over. And you have the nerve and audacity to ask for tax breaks? Are you fucking kidding me? You know what's funny? And this is one thing I agree with Joe Biden on. I can't believe I actually find myself agreeing on some of the shit he says through his incoherency. But one thing he said, why are corporations receiving the Bush tax cuts, right? Why are they receiving the Bush tax cuts when they're not providing jobs and they're eliminating jobs by AI? And you know what? Joe Biden actually makes a good point there. Why should they get the George Bush tax cuts if they've been sending our jobs overseas And they've been eliminating jobs here with AI technology. Why should you continue to get the George Bush tax cuts? You're not providing anything. You're not providing tax. You're not providing any jobs here. So this whole argument as to you having to get tax breaks for what? Why should you get excluded from the conversation? The frivolous spending, we're going to have to do an overhaul of that. And no, I'm not talking about Doge and Elon Musk. I'm talking about that shit. I'm actually talking about where our money is going. And a lot of this money is going to countries that have no business touching our dollar. And not to mention the fact that all these monies are going into the war, right? They say America knows best. They profit off of war, but yet we're one of the biggest selling gun countries in the world. And not just foreign, but domestic, right? So why are we funding wars? Why are we funding? Y'all know the countries I'm talking about. Why are we funding their wars? Why? What is our involvement there? Why are we sending Ukraine massive amounts of money? Why? Of America's tax dollars. Why doesn't Europe send the majority of the bill? Why is the United States doing it? We haven't talked about that yet. That's not part of the conversation I talked about. But nope, EBT is the problem. Let's just kick on the poor man's door just one more time for the good old Gipper and tell him to get a goddamn job. Meanwhile, your taxes are literally being raped out of your check. But yet EBT is the problem. That's the big problem. Ooh, that's the boogeyman in the closet. You know, that's the gotcha bitch. You know, it's like that's the problem. But all this other shit I said is not a problem. But that's the problem. The EBT, that's the main problem. That's the problem going on in the United States. That's the biggest taxpayer spending bill is EBT. If you were to compare EBT to the housing market crisis, to every other crisis that's going on, to where our money's going, I guarantee it's on the bottom 5. It's not even a blemish of a part of the conversation. It's probably 0.1% of the frivolous spending that's going on. And not what I mean by if you get EBT, that means you're part of the frivolous spending. I mean part towards the fraud, some minuscule fraud that's in there. That's not the issue. The issue is the taxes in this country and the frivolous spending of our money going to countries that shouldn't be even touching our dollar. Not to mention the fact that a lot of this money is going towards wars that we don't support. That's the issue. That's the problem. That's it. But leave it to these YouTube experts and, these content maker experts, because of course they know everything. You know, this is how entitled this society has become. Is all these content makers, they remember they know everything. You can't tell them shit. And they're like, oh, it's the EBT. That's the problem. These motherfuckers need to get up and get a job. And it's funny because I was on Instagram the other day and I saw people making videos on that shit. Men, women, all through the like, man, I'm glad I can't wait till they cut EBT off, man, because, man, we're going to save a lot of money. I'm like, really? And how much do you expect we're going to save? How much do you expect we're going to save? Do you know that we pay for other countries' health care through their defense budget, Europe's defense budget? But yet, healthcare here is expensive. That's not a problem. That's not a problem here. That's not a bigger problem than SNAP. That's not a bigger problem than EBT. Give me a break. It's a joke. It's a joke. EBT is nothing more. This EBT SNAP shit, most people, the 40 million Americans, most of them are not immigrants, and most of them get $300 to $400 as food stamps a month. But, maybe there's a small percentage that get $1 to $2 grand, and maybe there is a little bit of fraudulent shit going on. And if you want to cut them off, that's fine, but that's not going to make a difference in our lives. It's not going to save us any money at the gas pump. It's not going to give you a return investment on your check, because your money is literally being driven out through higher taxes of rising cost of property taxes and sales tax and state taxes, and the taxes on your food is continuing to go up. And then the money that they're already raping us for is going to other countries and going to war, unjustly wars that we do not approve of, that the American people did not vote on. That's where, but none of that's an issue. It's just EBT. Wow, this is insane. And we wonder why our economy sucks. Which, by the way, no one talks about how bad the economy is out here. Nobody talks about it, about how like, our economy sucks. It's horrible. You know, don't tell DT about that. Don't tell Donald Trump about the economy being bad. Oh no, he'll just go skip around the fucking question. He's kind of picking up a little bit of Joe Biden's incoherency. You know, like I said, you know, Donald Trump, I don't know where you guys go off saying he's the best president of all time, or he's in the top five. Absolutely not. Now, is he in the five worst? Probably not, but he's not the top five best. Absolutely not. Nowhere close. Nowhere close. You know, it's just, you know, people live in the now moment. And they like the fact that Trump's just a good troll. He used to be good at trolling. He used to be good. He good at his roast. Like sometimes he can roast. He's a little funny. Other than that, when it comes to his economical skill, when it comes to his economical, you know, legislation, it's terrible. He gets mad. Well, the Democrats keep driving up the deficit. Well, so are you. You've driven up the deficit so much. He says he's not for corporations, but he keeps cutting them deals. Yep. And he bails out corporations and banks, just like Obama did. That's why I said that Trump reminds me of Barack Obama. They're very similar. They're about censorship and large corporations. Trump says, "Well, I'm not big on government." I'm like, "Well, you're big on corporations who are backed by the government. It's basically the same thing. It's not really much of a difference, sir." And teachers not making enough job corps for a lot of income families. Yeah, depend on it. Yeah, yeah. It's insane how people fight over the dumbest shit on the internet. EBT, gender wars, race wars. You see a lot of fascism going on the internet. You guys see all these racist videos. These you know, again, it's I know that racism can be viewed as satire to some and funny, and that's okay because sometimes I enjoy a good laugh. So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm all for cancel culture and I'm all for censorship, you know. No. But you see like this blatant racist shit all over the internet now. It's all, you know, either pro white, pro black, pro this, pro that. It's like you see, it's a lot more, and they're becoming very hostile. And like some of it's satire, but then and some of it's funny, but then some of it just goes beyond. Now, do I say cancel them? No. But at the same time, you're starting to see it on the internet now when it comes to these guys. But yet my channel gets shadow banned for discussing how we need to cut property taxes. But you can have people pushing their pro nationalist agenda or pushing pro whatever their country is they're from or whatever, and how they hate everyone else. But no, that they're fine. They can get the clicks and the views. That's fine. But when I talk about property tax relief, boom, channel shadow ban. Boom, no views. Boom, no subscribers. Boom, no views. That's not an issue. But people can talk about racist shit all fucking day on the internet. And that's completely okay. They get the 300,000 views. They get the 400 likes or subscribers. They get a little pocket change. But yet when I talk about actual things that need to reform in this country, my channel gets shadow banned. And they just silence me. It's insane. You know? It's insane. And they're using AI technology, by the way, to do these censorships online. By the way, which Meta's getting sued, by the way. They have been using AI to censor accounts on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And they're in the process of getting sued right now. And hopefully, if I cross my fingers, if it goes well, depending on what type of judge is running, if it goes well, then maybe we can see the ending of H.R. 5736 and H.R. 5181, which is Barack Obama's bills that he signed into office, and Donald Trump has currently been running those legislations ever since. We've never really had a Republican in office since probably George W. Bush Jr., which he's probably pro far right establishment. I wouldn't really consider him like a true fiscal conservative or a centrist. He's more far right. We haven't really had a conservative in office. If anything, the closest one is Bill Clinton. That's just my opinion. I think Bill Clinton was a moderate leftist back when progressive being a progressive was cool and hip and cool, and maybe a little bit of conservatism in him because he was pro police and he was pro army, he was pro military, and he had peace around the world. Now, am I saying he was perfect? No. But if you were to compare Bill Clinton's presidency to the rest of these idiots that have been in office the last four administrations, I would tell you that Bill Clinton was probably a lot better than them. If I had to elect Bill Clinton, if it was Bill Clinton from the 90s, I would absolutely run him in. Now, is his wife kind of a little bit off a rocker? Yes, I wouldn't vote for her, but I would vote for her husband. I thought he ran the country very well. It just sucks is because his name's tarnished due to the whole Monica Lewinsky thing, and then plus the fact that his wife is kind of dug her head in the sand, and she's kind of like a far leftist, and it kind of makes him look back. Well, that's her husband, so he must feel the same way. So there's it kind of rubs off, But I think Bill Clinton was the best president, and just my opinion. I wasn't around too much for the Bill Clinton presidency, or the Jimmy Carter or anything like that. But I would say in comparison, just if you ask me now, the old heads would say probably Jimmy Carter or Ronald Reagan. I hear his name come up, and and that's okay. I wasn't around, so I wouldn't know personally. I could give you an answer on that, but I can tell you, I think that Bill Clinton was the best out of the last five presidencies. Maybe Ronald Reagan was better than Clinton. I don't know. I would have to go and look a little further into that. I think beyond Bill Clinton, I really didn't look too much into the presidents after that. I kind of just stopped. I can just tell you that I think that, in my opinion, out of the last four administrations, the worst one, I would probably it's a tie between Obama and Bush. It's really a tie. It's really kind of hard to depict the two. If you ask me who was the best president in the last four administrations, it's tough to call. Bush was good at foreign policy. I'll give him that. With the oil companies, he was drilling a lot of oil out. Under Vice President Dick Cheney, who was one of the big COOs for Halliburton at the time, that was digging oil out of Iraq. You guys know all about that. I would have to say, the economy went down in Bush's second term. I think the first term he was okay. I think his second term he flopped big time. Inflation hit very high. The credit cards, the interest rates went up. Then, of course, he sold his stock in the insider trading, which he should be in prison for that. He escaped. He dodged prison for that. He should be locked up personally. And again, I would have to say, Barack Obama. Allegedly stopped ISIS. Didn't he capture Osama bin Laden, if I'm correct? I mean, a lot of people talk about that, the conspiracy theories behind that. I'm just talking about a little bit of now some takeaways. Of course, inflation hit when he was in office, the double dip recession under Barack Obama. Then you had Trump come into office. The taxes were a lot lower. The cost of living was a lot lower. He was okay under that. Then he flopped, allowed the Democrats to take over. He said, no, we're not going to worry about the wall. Just worry about it later. It's no big deal. Then he gives in to not repealing 5736 or 5181, which he had plenty of time to do so. Never did that. And then, of course, the whole handling of the COVID thing. With the whole quantitative easing in and shit, and you know, telling people to stay home and standing next to his buddy, Dr. Fauci, and signing the legislation and said, we're going to go ahead and sign that stimulus check. I remember I was telling everybody at Walmart, this is a terrible idea. The banks at the time wanted what, 8% interest rate, 8.5. You don't think they weren't going to get that money back? They were going to get that damn money back, bro. And now they're just making more. They were just killing it. Then Biden comes in, signs 2 more stimuluses. The interest rates went up. Then you had the fun wars. That's what you call hyperinflation. We went through all these recessions under Biden. Then Trump came back in, and we're possibly at this stage of the game, maybe in a depression. Almost. If not there, it's like almost. Trump, promised us the Epstein files release. Then he says, "Oh, don't worry about it." Gets angry and almost arrogant about it. He tells us, "Oh, and we're going to release we're going to release the property tax. We're going to release the Epstein files." And then he just, backdoors on it. And then some of his supporters come out and say, "Well, it's not really affected my life, so why does it care if Trump?" I'm like, "Yeah, but y'all were the same ones that wanted the Epstein files to be released when Biden was in office, which I still wanted them released, and I still want them released to this day." Well, all of a sudden you change to now. You don't have to do it just because Trump said so. No, fuck that. He needs to honor his word, and he needs to release those Epstein files immediately, and not sit here and dance around the subject. No, he lied to us, which is not the first time, but he basically, point being is he lied to us, to the voters that voted for him, not the Democrats. He lied to his voting fan base. He lied to us that those Epstein files would be released the day he took office. Now he wants to backpedal. Well, why do you want to do all that, bro? Why won't you just release the Epstein files? Why is it all of a sudden not important? Or is there some oligarchs or some donors that are on that list? Or is your name implicated on it? None of it surprises me. None of it surprises me. Just because I vote for somebody doesn't mean I'm not going to hold their feet to the fire. A lot of people, they want to stick by their guy. That's fine. But you got to hold his feet to the fire the same way you would do with your opposition. And say, no, I voted for you because you promised to do these things. Now I'm holding you to it. And now you want to sit there and backpedal and tell me you're not entitled to do anything for me. Absolutely not. You're not going to do that to us. And you don't think I'm not going to critique you on that, call you out? No, I'm going to call you out. Now, my channel can get shadow banned. That's fine. Go ahead, shadow ban it. I don't give a shit. But I'm still going to call you out. Go ahead and shadow ban me. That's fine. There's a lot of people shadow banned right now, so I don't feel too bad. There's but EBT is the problem. It's like, dude, no. EBT is not the problem. The teacher's not making enough. Taxes is the issue here before I let you guys go. The taxes in this country is the issue. It's the main issue. Preferably property tax. My bill gets rid of the property tax the first day in office. Yes, there's some judges that are going to sue me. They're going to take me to court, and they're going to try to what they call it, like uphold my legislative bill. They're going to try to take me to court and sue me, and that's okay. I expect them to, and they're going to be from the left and the right. It's not just going to be just like the left doing it. The right's going to be doing it too, because they're all involved in the real estate market. They're all involved in the takeover of taking people's homes, and they need property tax to be able to leverage it. Why would you not think that they weren't going to sue me and take me to court? Of course, I expect that. And I'm willing to fight every tooth and nail for you guys to go to court and fight for that legislation and fight for that to be passed. And again, I would actually set a limit as to how many units and condos corporations can buy. I would redo the LLC to where you cannot have 8 different LLCs under the same name. That's how they're getting away with this shit. I'm telling you, it's loopholes in real estate that they're getting away with. Then money laundering. A lot of people are money laundering and money through real estate. It's one of the biggest things you can hide money through, because why? The cost of materials constantly are going up and down. So you can hide money in real estate. You can hide money in construction. A lot of people don't talk about that, and a lot of it's dope money. We haven't gotten to all that yet. You're talking about a whole big scale of issues going on that needs to be addressed. But like I said, the elimination of property taxes would be almost a deal breaker. And I think if I was to run for president, even for 4 years, they would say, what's one thing Stephen did that you would remember him? You would remember me by? Oh, man, he eliminated property taxes. You know how much money I saved? Just think if you live in California right now and you're watching this video and you live in California and you're paying, what, 10,000, 20,000 a year in property taxes. And even I've seen in some cases, some houses that are $1 million, like what they call it, the appraisal district, will say, hey, this house worth $1 million or whatever. It's on this many acres, this many square footage, so many square feet or whatever. And then they'll say, oh, but the property taxes are 50,000. That's all. Why should I have to pay 50,000 a year in taxes if I'm already paying $1 million on the thing? You eliminate the property tax. So you say, okay, that is one less bill, and that's a big bill that I'm saving on. Think about it. Let's say here in the neighborhood I live in, the average property tax is $4,800. It's $4,000 to $4,800. Imagine saving $4,800 a year on your house. That $4,800 can go into maintenance cost. It can go into groceries, anything. Just imagine just being able to save on your property tax and knowing that at the end of the year you're not huffing and puffing when it's tax time and you have to pay that property tax bill in January, and you know that it's done, it's over, no more, it's over with. It's just it would, I think it would be a deal breaker for a lot, and even for the rich, the powerful, even for people who are making a lot of money. They would like me too, because they're paying high property taxes and they're like, shit, man, I like this guy Rose, man. He might be a poor motherfucker, but you know what? I like this guy because, man, he saved me a ton of money. A ton of money right there. And so you eliminate that property tax. You don't have to worry about corporations stealing your home. You have the power over your home, not the government, and not corporations or investment hedge funds. You don't have to worry about that anymore. Those fears are over. Let's say young Link gets hurt, injures his leg while on duty. Thank you for serving, by the way, for your service. And he gets injures his leg, right? Requires surgery. He's out of work. He's getting compensated, but in his course, he still gets the workers' comp and all that. And he's still going to have to pay bills around the house. That's never going to go away. But at least the property tax bill would be a huge relief. And then if you imagine people retiring, older people that have put so much work in all these years, decades, and working to eventually be able to retire, you don't have to worry about some fucking piece of shit corporation building a condo next to you to force you out of your home. You can smile right back at them every day you're out cutting the grass, knowing that you'll never lose your home. That no matter how hard times get, you'll have a head to rest on at night. You'll have a head to rest on at night. It would be a dream come true if we can actually get a president that would actually eliminate property taxes. But that may not happen. That's why I'm tired of voting for billionaires that are backed by corporate hedge funds. I'm so sick of it. I'm just done with it. I don't know if you guys are done with it, but I'm sick of it. tired of it. I'm tired of having to vote for these guys that I know that don't have my interest at heart. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of the smoke and mirrors. I'm sick of them lying to us. I'm sick of them trolling us. I'm done. I'm sick of it. We need an entire rehaul, an entire reform in this country in regards to how we vote for our politicians, how do we vote for our presidential candidates, and how do we hold them accountable to the things we want them to do that serve our best interests rather than these smoke and mirror talks that they give us at town hall meetings. We're tired of it. I mean, you can only sit here and get so tired of it to where you just say enough is enough. The only strategy that, in my opinion, the only strategy of how we apply it to the 2028 elections is we either start voting for the small guys to come up that may have our interest at heart, from the small and the middle guy, to be included in the conversation with the oligarchs, with everyone, or we don't vote at all and start putting our money where our mouth is and saying, I'm not voting this election. I'm going to sit this out, just like I set the last one out. I'm not participating in the 2028 elections in voting. And I think it sounds like an un-American thing to do because, people say, well, that's un-American of you, to do. And I'm like, I think that the people we're electing is not American, meaning they're not putting America first, Americans first. Yeah, that sounds. They're not putting us first. And it's like, so what would it matter if we voted? What would it matter? What's the incentive to vote? We might as well just start putting our money where our mouth is and saying, we're gonna mess this election up so bad, we're gonna make you look foolish on grand stage. Because you don't want to listen to us, because our voice doesn't matter, we're gonna go ahead and just not vote at all. And we're going to watch you look like a bunch of clowns when the Congress has to sit there, when they have to explain why a single voter didn't go to the poll, and why essentially the um the Congress is going to have to elect the next president. You know how embarrassing that's going to be for them? It's going to pull the rug underneath the veil. Now it's going to be like, okay, which candidates are the 12 guys you're going to pick, is it going to be your favorite guy? It now comes down to this biased opinion. There's going to be a lot of, I mean, you're better at drawing names out of a hat. If you're going to have Congress vote for the president, you might as well just draw names out of a hat. I mean, might as well. What's stopping you? Why not just do that? Just say, I'm going to pull names out of a hat now. What will be the difference? What's the difference? And watch the clowns that they look like when they have to sit there and elect the next president. I think the people at this point, I think people are just done. They've just given up on life, and they've just given up. So, like, what's the incentive to go to the voting poll? It seems like to me, and when election time is up, they want people at what? Their worst, and they want people that are desperate to hit the polls. Because if you were making good money and you had a good life, it wouldn't incentivize you to go vote. Now, sure, you're going to go do it. I'm not going to say that there's no incentives for you to vote, even at the higher end. But if everybody was prosperous, or the vast majority of the country was not desperate and they were prosperous, they probably wouldn't care about politics. They probably wouldn't care about voting. So at this point, you've got to ask yourself, it seems like they want you poor and desperate, so that when election time comes, you're driven off your emotion, because all humans are emotional, right? So they want you driven off your emotion, going to the polls, desperate for change. And how many times have you heard that about desperation for, you know, uh, I'm desperate to vote because I want change. You know, it's like, okay, when Biden came in office, right? You know, it was just a transition, right? Everybody said, "Oh, the elections were rigged," blah blah blah. Then when Trump was winning election, it's almost like you kind of knew he was going to win. And then you hear about um, what is that um, Operation? What is it that they called it? Section or the 2030, the Great 2030 or whatever. I forgot what the operation they called it, but basically, when Trump came in, it was all about um, Agenda 2025, or I think they called it Agenda 2025, and then you had Agenda 2030, right? Which talks about the Great Reset, right? And 2025's agenda was a little controversial take, but it was about Trump funding wars for certain countries. Just gonna leave it at that. And that's what they talked about. And Project 2025, sorry. And then Agenda 2030. And it kind of looks like if you follow Project 2025, it kind of looks like that's kind of where Donald Trump is kind of following. And then Agenda 2030 is with the AI takeover, elimination of jobs, the Great Reset, you not owning anything, everything being corporatized. I mean, if you look at sort of how society is now, everything's corporatized. Everything's corporatized. Everything. Sponsorship this, sponsorship that, corporation this, corporation that, everything. It's a continuation of just them owning everything and you owning nothing to like it. I mean, just imagine how that sounds. Imagine how that sounds. That doesn't sound good. I'm telling you, this where this economy is trash. It just is what it is. It's terrible. People are struggling through the high cost of everything. Um, the rising cost in food, medicine, the high rising cost in parts for your vehicle. Like just to go change my brakes was like $900, $800. When it used to just cost me like 200, 300. Change your brakes and rotors. Now they want 2, 3 times that amount. The amount of a used car is almost, if not more than the amount of a new car. You know, maintenance costs in your homes have gone up. Your light and electric bill has gone up. It's a never stopping ending to everything, isn't it? It's these times we're living in are times of reevaluation. Are we going to have to reevaluate how we vote now? Are we going to have to reevaluate not voting maybe for the next president and just kind of sitting this out and let this shit show take place and let's make it in mockery, because that's what it has become. Our elections have become nothing more than a you know of it being just corporately run and corporately owned. There's nothing about the middleman and the small man that should even take part in this. And that's the reason why I think that that's another issue, is that whichever president you bring in, left or right, their main concern is taking care of their donors and corporate hedge funds. That's it. They have no concern about us at all. They have no concern. It sounds crazy, isn't it? But how they don't care about us. The common person. Me, you, the person watching. And think about it like this. My spring break bill, right? I call it the spring break bill. You eliminate, it's a whole tax reform. And basically, it's just doing away with all these unwanted taxes, gift tax, death tax, right? All these taxes that are just a burden to our society. And just imposing a flat tax. Just say, look, we're going to get rid of these 6, 7 taxes here, and we're just going to do a one-time flat tax. So whatever your income is, it's 8%. I think that's fair. And yes, corporations, you're paying a tax too. Everyone pays. It just is what it is. And it's just, I think that this is the way that we need to turn this country around is tax reform. True tax reform. Would you run as an independent or a Republican? Well, technically you have to list Democratic or Republican, so I would be listed under as Republican, but I would be more of an independent. Not how Donald Trump says, oh, I'm an independent, but I'm truly a fiscal conservative. It's like, no, you're just a failed troll from the Democratic Party. You ain't fooling nobody. So I'll run as an independent. In fact, I won't even say Republican. I'll just run as independent. That's it. I'm telling you, man, eliminate property taxes, bro. There's people from the right and left that are going to hate my guts. Oh, they're going to hate me so bad. One, I eliminate that. I'm at that my own security around. They like hiding a hotel or something. It's they wonder why this economy sucks. They wonder why people don't care anymore and just throw in the towel. Because people don't have any trust and belief of leadership. What good is it if you don't have leadership? Right? And they always say, well, if you depend on others, they're going to let you down. Well, absolutely. But you always want that one person they could depend on. I want to be the guy that actually changes the entire DC. To go in there and change the entire platform, to change the entire mechanism. I want to be the wrench that's thrown into the machine and just fucks it up, but in a good way. I want to be the guy that drains the swamp the way it should have been drained. I want to be a guy who wants to repair the economy the way it's supposed to be. I want to be a guy that's going to save the dollar. I want to be that guy that's going to save the American family. It's going to save the American household. It's going to stop these corporations from stealing your property, and the corruption in the stock market, and the insider trading, and start locking some of these people up that are guilty of insider trading, and start actually charging them with a crime. I mean, this is a work in progress. But if I was your president, I'm coming in guns blazing. I'm kicking that door open in the White House. I'm changing that shit. I'm changing the atmosphere. I'm changing it. It's a new sheriff in town. That old term used to be called. There's a new sheriff in town. Yeah, absolutely. There's a new sheriff in town. People are gonna be walking on eggshells for a little bit when I'm in office. Especially people around in that realm there. It's nothing personal. But there's no need to drain the swamp. How about you drain the waterfall? I'm going to set Niagara Falls in there. I'm not playing with these people. If I was president, definitely people are going to be walking on eggshells. They're going to be wondering. I mean, for some of you, you're going to have a job. Some of you may not need it. Some of you may be good somewhere else. Some of you are going to be evaluated. And yes, I'm imposing term limits. That's going to be my July 4th bill. I'm going to call it what is it? Well, I'm going to have to think of a name for the July 4th bill. It's not going to be the big, beautiful bill. No, it's going to be better. It's going to be term limit bill. Term limits. We're going to impose term limits on most of these government positions. There's no such thing as a career politician. Miss me with that. You're going to get the same term that a president gets. You get elected, you get 4 years. You get reelected, 4 more years. After that, you're done. Go find a new profession. You're done. And it's just, I think at this point, it's just, we need somebody that's going to go in and shake it up. Like it's gonna just gonna go inside of this building and shake the damn thing up. That's how you do it. It's just, matter of actually putting your money where your mouth is and saying, hey, this is what we're gonna do. Like I said, my bill is, if I get elected as president, as your president, first day in office, I'm going to impose a state of emergency on the real estate market. I'm going to discuss all the fraud and the corruption that's going in there. I'm going to have a big speech on it. Number two, the next day, I'm imposing the elimination of property taxes. You never have to worry about losing your home to such corporations. We're going to actually decorporatize the United States. We're going to give the corporations limited power. Just like you say your government should have limited power, well, your corporations are acting as a government entity, and therefore we need to put a limit to that. And by eliminating property tax, that's definitely going to put a fork in the wrench. It's definitely going to put a wrench in their machine. It's going to be hard for them to monopolize the market when you eliminate the property taxes. So that's what I would do. The spring break bill is a reform tax bill that imposes, basically, got to give Rand Paul credit to, the flat tax of 8%. Let's go ahead and eliminate the income tax, the state taxes. Let's go ahead and eliminate your death tax, gift tax, and all these unnecessary taxes that are just irrelevant, and impose a one-time flat tax. And that's 8%. Boom. Bingo. July 4th, like I said, boom, stepping right in there and imposing a bill that's going to, what was that bill again I talked about earlier? I call the July 4th bill. God damn it, my mind's all in a different place now. When I call the July 4th bill, what did I say I was going to eliminate? Come on, man. Help me out here. Oh, shit. What was it? So I was going to have a tax reform bill, property tax relief bill, which means I'll be in it. No more property taxes ever in this country again. And then what would I eliminate? I'm trying to think of what I was going to eliminate. God damn it. What was the July 4th bill, Rodney? What did I talk about? Help me out. My memory is vague. I forgot what that damn bill was. God damn it. I have to go back to it. Term limits. Term limits. And we're going to have a term limit bill that's going to be imposed on Congress, the House, the Senate, and impose it on most government positions. 8 years. That's all you get. There's no such thing as a career politician. Go find another job. And that would be my message to them. They're not going to like that shit. I'm going to say, no. You got power for 8 years. After that, you're done. Somebody else is going to run. We're going to have a new, fresh set of hands. We know how humans are. They get complacent. You leave them in office for so long, they start to, they start to not do things the way they used to, and they kind of get complacent. And so I'm just simply saying, you have a limited 8 years. You have a limited time. So all you need to do, you got 8 years to do it in. After that, go find another job. Because the way I see it is, there's no such thing, and I'll say this again, there is no such thing as a career politician. You can like politicians, like I like sports, but you're not a career. There's not a career in watching sports. Just like there's not a career in playing sports. You can only play sports for, up to 20 years, if you can make it that long. After that, you gotta get a job. Well, that's the same thing I'm saying for politics. Especially if you're going to be in charge of writing legislation, you're going to be in charge of writing laws and stuff in this country, there needs to be a limit on that. There needs to be term limits. And like I said, the term limit bill, July 4th, boom. Let's go ahead and eliminate and set term limits to Congress, the Senate, the House. Why not? Let's go ahead and set term limits to most of these government positions on being a U.S. Senator. I mean, if you already have term limits on the presidency, all right, then you're telling me that, you can only have 8 years as the president, and that's all you can do. I'm like, okay, so why should it not apply for any other form of government? Why can you be in Congress for 50 years? Why is it that you could be in, um, the House and Senate for 50 years? No. If you're telling me the commander in chief of the country, the United States, and the president is only able to run for 4 years on 2 terms, why should that not be applied all throughout the board? I think it's wonderful. Let's do it across the board. 8 years. So all you get is 8 years. So you do what you want for 8 years. After that, that's it. I can't believe I actually stayed on for this long. Jesus, Lord of mercy, almost 3 hours. Talking and ranting and raving and talking about politics. I haven't done a video like this in so long. It feels surreal. Like, did I really just make a video like this, bro, for 3 hours? Did I really just talk my ass off for 3 hours about politics? I couldn't even tell you the last time I did a video like this. I think it was probably like sometime last year or year before. It's been a minute. And I had to blow off the old cobwebs, blow off the dust off the cobwebs, off that microphone. Marvin said, "Are you streaming the Broncos Texans game tomorrow?" I want to. I just don't want to do it by myself. I'd rather have somebody on with me because I like it better when there's collabs. 2 or 3 people. You do a little collab. I wouldn't mind if I could find some people that want to collab. I might just watch the game. I went to the movies today. I went to go see Frankenstein. It was actually a pretty good movie. It was a real good movie. Frankenstein was fucking badass, bro. No, I was saying, so EBT at the end of the day is not a problem. And anyone who's, on video, that's, I've seen them on Instagram, they're all like bitching about how, they should be cut off of EBT. And I'm like, well, first of all, they're not getting that much. Secondly, there's also a large percentage of people that are in there that are working and receiving SNAP benefits. I know because I used to work at grocery stores. We used to take these people all the time. They had a job and they had a little bit of food stamp. It wasn't a lot. It wasn't like, oh my God, they're making all this. They're making millions of dollars on food stamps. Like, no. Or they're banking, making all this money. If they are, it's because they're probably disabled to where they can't work. So they definitely, people don't have a problem with some of these people that really need it to go hungry or go broke. It's like, well, not broke, but more hungry than anything. And it's like, wow. Now, you're like, well, we're gonna kick the ones off that need to be off it. I'm like, yeah, that's a small percentage. The 40 million Americans, I highly doubt that a vast majority of them are on it because they don't need it. Maybe at most, maybe a couple million, like 1, 2, 3 million people may not need those EBT benefits, SNAP benefits. Maybe. But it's not the whole 40 million as they're perpetuating it on the internet, on these sites. It's just simply not true. It's, wow. I can't believe I actually found myself staying up this late just to chat with you guys about this shit, because this is the reality of what our society is. It's just terrible, and we need to fix it. It needs to come from electing people that are more in touch with this. See, here's the problem with our electors is, and I'm not going to answer on the city and state level, but on the federal level, especially when it comes to your presidential candidates. The problem with them, I think I speak for everybody when I say this, or most people in the room can agree on this. I would say that most of them have a total lack of disregard when it comes to the common voter, when it comes to voting for, people on the lower and middle income and even on the lower of the higher income bracket. They only care about the oligarchs, corporations, hedge funds, and the 1% of the 1%, which is a very small percentage of the country. So, like, for example, if you take most Trump supporters that voted for Trump, including me, right, that voted for him, right? What's fair is fair, right? None of his laws benefited me. None of his legislation, not one. Not one. Just the taxes were low in 2016, 2017. Okay, I'll give him credit for that. Cost of living was a lot lower. Okay. But in 2018, it crashed. He was still in office. Office for 2 more years after that. While the economy was going down. It didn't just go down when Joe Biden came in. It got worse when Joe Biden came in. But Donald Trump set the tempo. It was already driving that force down the wedges. The taxes were going up. Gas prices were going up. And not to mention, the cost of living was slowly on the rise. The housing market was going up under Trump towards the end of his presidency. And how he handled COVID was just a complete joke. Just being honest. It's just, have them to be honest and share this information. And then Biden came in and drove the winch and said, well, I could do worse than you. And he proved most people that in certain cases he did. While in certain cases, sometimes he acted as a conservative. It's kind of weird. Can't find myself saying that, but he did. And, we've had just a joke of a presidency the last probably 4 administrations. It's been a joke. From the 2000s and up. Like I said, I think Bill Clinton was the only decent president in the last probably 40 years. Or 30 years. Would it be 30? Maybe I do my math right. Somewhere around there. I say Bill Clinton was probably the most decent one. Not saying he was perfect, but he was decent compared to the others. We just need to stop voting for these oligarchs in office, and we need to actually start putting in, people that are more in touch with and based with us. That's the only point I'm making. Is that we need to start putting Americans first. We need to include the smaller and the middle guy, small businesses. This country is based on businesses, right? We talk about how, right, the country is based off of what? Businesses, right? Which is a very conservative thing to say. Well, how do we get away from that and just turn only large corporations and putting laws and legislations and taxes in place to keep the small guy and the middle guy out of competing out of the market? And yet we want to sit here and say that this is a capitalist society. I'm like, no, it's not. It's actually more of a fascist economy. If you think about it, like in the large scape of things, we live in a fascist economy where corporations basically rule the land and that's it. Nobody else can compete. And anybody else who tries to come in the market is simply going to be flushed out the market through taxes. There's nothing really capitalist about that. That's more of a fascist economy. That's what you're seeing. Prove me wrong. Tell me the economy's good right now. Tell me the economy's booming. No, it's not. It's terrible. You know what my counter argument would be? When I hear some of these people are like, oh, the economy's great. I'm like, well, why don't you drive around and actually look at the businesses and tell me how many are actually getting customers? None. Dead. Most of these places. Restaurants, malls, shops, mom and pop places. Now, if you want to talk about Verizon Wireless or fucking Walmart, yeah, you're going to see customers there. But in regards to most of your mom and pop places, most of them are dead and closing up. That's terrible. And that actually, those small businesses is really what keeps the economy booming. And that's really what helps with price competition, with keeping prices down. It's kind of hard to keep prices down when you got the middleman out of the market. And now you're only forced to shop in at 2 or 3 stores. And they all hold the items what? Hostage. Which now becomes supply and demand. How bad do you want these can of green beans? How bad do you want these beans? Well, you're going to pay $20 for them because you're not going to be able to get those beans anywhere else. And so that's the problem I have when corporations monopolize the market. Is you're going to start seeing inflation at an all-time high because they're going to say, hey, you can't get these beans anywhere else. You can't get this can of raviolis anywhere else. Where else are you going to go? You're going to have to pay the cost for it, for the items. You have no choice. And that's sort of how they look at us. That's sort of how it's being run right now. It's all corporatized. Corporations have definitely taken over. I just simply point it out and say that this is what's happening. I appreciate you guys for watching, by the way. The 13 viewers, 3 likes, I'll take it. Y'all can always like the video later. I appreciate y'all for watching this video. I really do. I hope I gave you guys some insights. EBT is a big distraction. They want us to stir chaos. Yeah, just like racism. It's the same thing. Dreamology. Racism, um, gender wars that you see on here about how men and women are evil. I'm not gonna lie to you. Look, I used to be on that bullshit. I'm glad I grew out of that. I'm glad I really see for what it really is. It's all a distraction, just to get people fighting in the fan of flames. Absolutely. You got gender wars. You got racism, and in fact, I would say that racism is more prevalent on content makers now than I've ever seen in my life, because now they're not being censored. It's almost like they're being allowed to have these platforms. And I've seen them on every side, not just one side. But I've seen a lot of these content makers coming out of nowhere recently saying a bunch of racist shit. And the crazy thing is, I'm wondering, since I'm not for cancel culture, but I'm curious to wonder why my channel shadow banned, even though I didn't say one racist thing, but yet I see these content makers saying this shit every day, and their content gets pushed constantly in the media. It gets pushed constantly on Instagram and YouTube, not YouTube, but more so Instagram. And they're allowed to say all this racist shit and they can get away with it. It mind boggles me. I don't understand it. A lot of race pimps. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I think that this is the issue that we're having in this economy. It's like anything that stirs the pot is going to get views and subs. That takes your mind off of the main focus that should be is how to fix this economy, how to save the dollar, how to stop people from becoming poor and on the streets. And I used to get all in that gender war shit back in the day. For any of you followed me back, I used to get all into that shit. I'm sure glad that I'm not part of that anymore. There's bad apples on every bunch. Women, men, race, religious fanatics. You have anywhere you want to point the sword, profession wise, job occupation, anywhere you want to point the finger, there's always going to be bad apples in the group. They say one bad apple spoils the bunch. You're definitely going to have some people in your group that you're not so fond of, that you're going to be like, damn, they're sure pushing these stereotypes to an all-time level. It happens. It happens. So the idea that they try to pin us against each other based on race, religion, gender wars, it's all bullshit. Divide and conquer, absolutely. Yeah, now we're getting somewhere. It's a point where it's it's crap. It's left versus right. Which, if you look at the left and right, there's fanatics, there's weirdos on each party, and it's insane. It's insane. And now everything's so corporatized. So wherever you go, they just try to force sponsorship ads down your throat. YouTube, watching content, ads every 5 seconds. I'm battling through ads. When I watch WWE, have you guys watched the WWE in a while? Have you seen the sponsorship ads they have on their ring and on their sideline and all that? They force sponsorship ads down your throat to the point you don't even want to watch wrestling anymore. It's the same thing in basketball. I was watching the Kings game the other day, and I'm not a Kings fan, but it was what's his name? Uh, Westbrook signed with the team. He signed with the Kings, and did his debut, and there was some credit union that was sponsoring them, right? That sponsors the Kings, the Sacramento Kings. They had their sponsorship ad everywhere. I counted at least 15 of them. And that's not including the commercial ads. I'm like, I'm just curious, like, why do we have to be forced into this shit? Why am I have to be like, I feel like you're forcing me to buy something. I'm not watching a sport. I'm watching advertisements. And you're forcing it down our throats. What is going on here? This country has turned into corporations, taking over the stock market, the real estate market, and of course your everyday entertainment. Everything is sponsorship, 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 sponsorship. They constantly watch that shit. Yeah, propaganda machine, I agree. It's just pushing left and right bullshit down your throat. Let me give you another example. Um, you guys hear about the Super Bowl, right? And they're gonna have the Super Bowl coming up, of course, because I think we're like 90 something days from the Super Bowl, right? And there always a question every year is, what's Super Bowl halftime show? This halftime show is a joke. It's a joke now. The Super Bowl is nothing more than a joke. Well, the Super Bowl is good, but the game is okay. The commercials are somewhat funny, but the halftime show is a joke. Nobody cares about the halftime show anymore. That shit been died out, right? Halftime shows are trash. Anyways, so they're like, okay, Bad Bunny's going to be on the Super Bowl halftime show, right? And, of course, there's going to be some leftist media propaganda that's going to be behind it, right? And then they said, well, we're going to go ahead and have Charlie Kirk halftime show as well, for the Turning Point USA is going to be a part of the halftime. And I'm like, I'm not for either one. Bad Bunny's a singer. I don't necessarily like him. I think he's like a modern day Prince ripoff, but at least he sings. So I don't like his music personally, not my taste, but to each their own. The kids like it, whatever. Okay. I'm not going to watch it, but at least he sings so I could understand his presence there. But Turning Point USA, I'm a conservative and I'm saying, really? You're going to put this on the halftime show? It's not like Erica Kirk's coming out singing and doing some halftime show where she's rapping or something. Oh, God, that would be abysmal. Or like her and JD Vance are coming out and they're rapping or something. And I'm like, oh, God, what is it? Is this supposed to be like a funny Super Bowl commercial ad, but live? Maybe entertain it. But it's not really that. It's just them pushing pro-right, far-right bullshit. And I'm like, I don't want to watch that, man. I don't even want to watch Bad Bunny. Like, again, I think he's a Prince ripoff. But I don't want to watch that. I really don't want to watch either one. But I really don't want to watch Turning Point USA on my fucking Super Bowl fucking halftime show. What the fuck, dude? Yep, then the actual sport, Dreamology, I agree. Yeah, I never really heard of the guy. Bad Bunny sounds like some Twitch streamer, not a singer. Now he's like a Prince ripoff. He kind of comes off as a little, you know, questionable. He's a weirdo, but he kind of reminds me of a modern day Prince, but just a failed version, like a Prince, like if Prince never made it to be a singer, he's like a loser from the Twitch streamer, like, shit like that. Perfect example. He's a modern day Prince ripoff, and it's just it's terrible. He's terrible. He can't sing for shit, but that's just my personal prerogative. Maybe there's people watching that may disagree with me. I think he's horrible. I'm not going to watch it either way, even if he's on there. But at least with him singing, that's understandable because that's really, you have your singers, your entertainers on there. I get that, but to have Turning Point USA, it's like, okay, unless you're gonna do something that's supposed to be like funny and entertaining, I don't really see that. I see it's probably gonna be pushed pro right wing propaganda, and I'm not fond of Prince. I mean, not Prince, but of Bad Bunny. But I'm definitely not fond of some political shit being shoved down my throat, despite the fact it's my own constituents to a degree. because I find myself to be more conservative than anything. But even I don't agree with it. And I don't want them on my fucking Super Bowl halftime show. If I wanted to watch Turning Point USA, I would go to YouTube and type in Turning Point USA, and then I'll go watch the shit. I'm sick of it. I want zero politics in my sports. Absolutely. I want zero politics in my fucking life. I get away from politics so that I can live stress free. When you go to the movies, a lot of the movies now are pushing pro left, pro right bullshit. If you watch your favorite wrestling show, there's sponsorship ads everywhere. Corporate ads. You go to the your favorite NFL basketball game, they're trying to shove sponsorship ads down your throat. It gets to a point to where it's overwhelming, and it makes you disinterested in watching what you want to watch. So then it's like, who becomes your friend at that point? Netflix, Hulu. And I could watch the old shows back then where you weren't forcing sponsorship ads and politics down my fucking throat. I'm sick of it. I already get enough. I don't want to watch Fox News at halftime. I don't want to watch CNN. I want to watch football game. I'm tired of this shit, man. I'm sick of it. I'm just tired of this shit. I'm tired of politics. I'm just so done with it. I understand it's always going to be there. But man, I'll tell you right now, if Trump reruns in 2028, I'm whatever hair's left in my head, I'll be bald completely with no more hair growing out, because it will be the biggest clown show in the world if Trump rewrites the legislation and allows him to run again. And I can guarantee you, Joe Biden will rerun again, and we will see this circus all over again in 2028, a rehash of 2020 and 2024. Jesus Christ. At this point, this is a joke, a fucking joke. If these two guys rerun again, because I'm telling you now, it looks like this is my prediction. If Trump goes in and says, "Well, I'm gonna rerun again, and I'm gonna prove to you at 84 that I still got it," because a lot of these boomers are like this. They're very arrogant. They don't want to relinquish power. It's like, dude, I don't want to see you in presidency. You're 100 years old, man. God damn. And so Trump's going to be like, I still got stuff in the tank. I still got stuff I have to prove, damn it. And then Biden comes out of nowhere, and he's going to be like, I kicked your ass in 2020, you son of a bitch. And I fucking want my rematch because you fucking rigged the 2024 election, you motherfucker, with Agenda 2030 and fucking Project 2025, you son of a bitch. And then Trump's going to turn around and be like, well, remember when you fucked me in 2020? You rigged the elections, Joe? Well, you asked for it. I did rig the elections in 2024. That's because you son of a bitch, you fucked me in 2020. And so you're going to be hearing a lot of this crap in 2028. And it's really going to be a circus. It's like, have you seen the movie Killer Clowns from Outer Space? That's Joe Biden and Trump. The big fucking alien clowns from fucking outer space. And this is the shit that's going to be in 2028. It's either we get that, or I'll tell you something even scarier. You're all ready to hear what I'm about to tell you? This shit's going to scare you. You're either going to get that, or you're going to get J.D. Vance versus Gavin Newsom from California. I can already see it coming a mile away. Gavin Newsom's going to run for the Democratic Party. And J.D. Vance is another Trump, off the Trump protege team, right? Pro-corporation, less for the American people, or whatever. He might be a little more intelligent than Trump, but if he's going to be carrying Trump's policies, then you might as well hire Barack Obama as your vice president. You might as well. It's a joke, dude. It's a joke. This is terrible. I mean, you might as well just put Vivek Ramaswamy in there if you're going to do all this shit. I mean, this is insane. Our elections is nothing more than a big fat clown show at this point. It's a clown show. It's a circus. It's a circus. Destroyed California, absolutely. I'm stuck in Los Angeles. Newsom wants to be. I'm telling you, Trump is a clown. JD Vance is a clown. Gavin Newsom's a fucking clown, and so is what's his name? Joe Biden. It's you're gonna get this clown circus again. They're gonna run with the storyline as you fuck me for the election and you fuck me over. You remember when you fuck me? It's gonna be like this. When content makers go at it, it's the same analogy. They're gonna be fighting back and forth. It's gonna be like one of those. When you go in these Google Hangouts and people start fighting with each other. Oh, debate me and stuff, and you'll see that weirdo Officer Tatum will be like, hey. You want to come and debate me and stuff like it's some sort of like wrestling promo. That's what it's turned into with Trump and Biden. It's turned into that. It's turned into that, like WWE, and it's not about an election anymore. It's a joke. And then you have Kamala, who dodges questions and has no clue what she's talking about, and then you insert her into the mix because she's gonna say, "Oh well, I want my rematch too." And me and Biden are going to take you out, you son of a bitch. And so, I mean, at this point, you might as well just put it as a WrestleMania match right before the election, just for entertainment value. I might be slightly entertained. You put Trump and Vance and put Biden and Newsom in one corner in a tag team match and make it the main event a night two at WrestleMania, and I might actually buy tickets just to watch it. Just to laugh, because that's what it's became now. Is a shit show circus. It's a popularity contest. I know. The fake drama panels. Yep. Thank God, Dreamology, we got something in common. I mean, it's a joke. It's a clown show, and they've done a good job in dividing us. I will give them credit. They've done a very good job. Trump only has 2 brain cells. Well, he has 2 more brain cells than Biden, but unfortunately, it's not very much. Trump is a pathological liar. He swayed my vote. He lied to us, the voters. He says he wasn't large corporations. Turn out he was. He says he wasn't all for immigration. Turn out he was. He's nothing but a lying snake. He's a 2-timing criminal. In fact, I'm going to go far to say this. I wish he would have gotten convicted of those 34 charges and put his ass in prison if I knew this shit was going to happen. It's a joke, man. It's a joke. It was a joke before Trump, and it was a joke during Trump administration, and even again. It's just now it's finger point. Oh, you rigged the election. And you rigged the election. I think what we need to do is just put Trump, Biden, Gavin Newsom, and JD Vance in a tag team match, and book it for WrestleMania for next year, or just wait till I guess 2020. No, because you got to have a president by 2028. So WrestleMania 2027. That's right when they start hitting the panels for their stupid little debates and stuff and their little 3-second Twitter clips. I would say, hey, Trump and JD Vance square in the ring against Biden and Newsom for the main event at WrestleMania. So that'll be, we're hitting WrestleMania 42, I think, next year. Or help me out, is it 42 or 43? I think it's 40. I forgot. I think it's 42. Yeah, it's 42 next year. So that'll be 43 would be the following year, 2027, right? So okay, so for WrestleMania 43, it is booked. Donald Trump and JD Vance are going to square in the center of the ring against Biden and Gavin Newsom in a Texas Tornado tag match. No tags. They all have to fight until one man pins the other, and there is a winner. Or it could be a ladder match. Go ahead and put that ladder in there. And put that ladder match in there. And which one of these guys reaches the ladder and gets the championship, they'll be the tag team champions, and they get a bonus 10 electoral electoral college votes to start their vote. If you did that, I'm not going to lie to you, I might actually be slightly entertained by that. But I may not vote, but it's just something for shits and giggles. Like, well, fuck it. It's already a clown show anyway. Might as well just put it in the wrestling ring. I mean, at least make it worth its money. You know, give me a reason to watch wrestling again. This might actually slightly be entertaining. Is to put these guys in the ring. Or a celebrity boxing match. I wouldn't mind that. I mean, just something. I mean, it's better than what I'm seeing them doing in office. I would get more out of Trump and Biden in a boxing ring than I would if you were to run these dickheads in office again. The past 15 years I've been paying attention. Politics have been very much like, yeah, you're going to head to bed? All right, Dreamology, I kept you up all night. Yeah, it's a joke. And like, have you seen Gavin Newsom, how arrogant he is? Like, if you watch his interviews, he'll be on those interview podcasts. I think he was on there with Kirk. And they'll ask him about, well, you know, the economy in California looks like shit. And he'll be like, that's not true. That's not true. Like, he'll just completely just oblivious to the question. He's like, no, the economy is best that it's ever been, even though drones of people are leaving California. This guy is so fucking dense. He will sit there and argue with you and tell you it's not true. That's not true. That's not true. It's like, dude, yeah, it is. You have a state tax. You have taxes that are completely high. You're taxing people out of the fucking market. And people are leaving in drones out of California. The state of Texas alone, we had 60,000 people from California move in between the years of 2018 and 2020 in our state, which is why our cost of living has gone up. So yes, in fact, Newsom, you were driving people out of that once beloved state of California, and the cost of living there is atrocious. The taxes there are high. Are you really that dense and stupid like Joe Biden? Or like Trump? It's just like he is so dense, man. But guess what? He's all the Democratic Party now has to run. They're not going to run AOC. The only bet they got is Gavin Newsom. And Jesus, Lord of mercy. Are we in for a field day if this guy runs for the Democratic Party? And again, if Trump runs again, I'm so sick of these guys, man. I'm tired of them. I said just put them in the middle of a battle royale and just like put those four in there. You can add like maybe a couple more to the list. You can add Mitch McConnell, some of these other guys in there, throw them in there. Lindsey Graham, just throw them all in there and let them do a big battle royale. And give me my money's worth, damn it. I mean, hell, it's already a clown show. You might as well just give us a circus. Give us some entertainment value. You're going to fuck the country up some more. Why don't you just go ahead and just make it worth my while and let me watch a good wrestling match for WrestleMania. Just, give me my money's worth. Let me, before you fuck it one more time. Lord of mercy. I don't know what we're going to do. What was supposed to turn into an hour video is almost 3.5. And I've been up since 12:30. It is now 4:17. I'm still up making this video. I was supposed to be asleep. I was supposed to be tired. Go to bed. Wake up tomorrow. Because I got football tomorrow. I got my Texans playing against the Broncos at noon. If I go to bed now, I could probably wake up by 10. Maybe by 10:30. Man, this is insane, man. This White House, you might as well call it the clown house. The clown house. Let's welcome the clown house back. Watch Trump and Biden run again, Marvin says, and then it ends up being a tie, and then they both become the president. Well, I mean, yeah, might as well. What's this? I mean, if Trump can go in and change the legislation to run a third term, what's to stop it? Why not just say two people can win? And you have Trump in one side, Biden in another, and just imagine them arguing back and forth all day. Wow. Unfortunately, we live in a society that no longer cares about anything. They don't care about who's running. They don't care about morals, respect. People don't respect themselves anymore. People have no morals anymore. People just don't care. They just threw in the towel in life. They said, fuck it, I don't care anymore. And, Muhead said this best. I'll stand by him when he says this. He says, when people stop caring, they start what? Stealing out the register. Y'all ever heard that terminology before? When you start when you stop caring, people start stealing out the register. People don't have values anymore. People have just lost trust in leadership, but they've also lost trust in themselves. And that's why it's just, the only thing that gets people by is to do stupid, dumb shit on the internet. It's the only thing. It's not about doing the right thing anymore. It's not about doing what's right. It's about just, how much of the biggest prick son of a bitch I can be tomorrow. I want to be a worse human being tomorrow than I am now. It's just, and every day these content makers, the same shit. You do the same thing every day. How much of a piece of shit I can be the next day that I was worse the day before. Instead of trying to be a better person. People have no values. We don't value anything anymore in the society. We live in an entitled society, and that's the truth. Like, we are very entitled here. And even to a degree, I'm guilty of it at times. I'm not going to sit here and leave myself out of it. I'm even guilty at times. I'm a little entitled, or, I think I've humbled myself the last couple of years. But I think that people just need a humbling point. We need to realize what's important in our life. Our friends, our family, those closest to us, and people that enjoy being around us. And then other than that is the value, your own happiness, your own path in life, and where that takes you to, however you find that happiness. That's the best key. Society is lost, Marvin says. Yeah, I agree, unfortunately. You're absolutely right. Society is fucking lost. Society is lost. And we've been like that for probably at least since COVID, but probably maybe a little bit leading up to that last 10 years. Society has definitely been lost. Society is lost. I think it takes somebody with courage that's going to come in and say, I'm going to change the perception of people's minds. Because at the end, it's all in your mind. It's all in the mind. And say, you know what? I'm going to change the perspective of people's minds. If I was your president, I would go in, and enact the bill that's, what do I call it? What do I call that bill? Or I'm eliminating the property tax. I call it setting the tone bill. Setting the tone bill. I think eliminating property taxes for every state is going to put a relief, and it's going to induce trust back in everybody. And they're going to say, damn, here's a guy that came in and made change immediately, rather than just saying it and then 30 days later just becomes complacent and sitting in office doing nothing. People would, I think setting the tone bill would be great, eliminating property taxes, and people would be like, whether you're on the left or the right, they'd be like, wow, this guy actually did it. A lot of these politicians say they were going to do it. This guy rose. He actually came in and did it. He actually came in and set the tone right away. He actually made change and followed it. So then people are going to stick around, whether you're on the left or the right. They're going to say, I like this guy. Let's see what else he's going to do. Now, I'm not going to do something every day, but I'm going to set the tone the first day. I think that's what is going to be like, whoa, we haven't seen this in a while. And then the spring break bill, tax reform bill. Boom. Elimination of the state income tax. Elimination of The income tax, the state tax, and the income tax. And let's go ahead and eliminate, you know, gift taxes, death taxes, and let's impose a flat tax at 8%. People are going to find relief real easily when they realize they're not being choked to death from their taxes, being taken out of their checks. They're going to be like, I like this guy. By the first 90 days, my approval rating is going to be real high. They're going to be like, what else is this guy going to do that's just going to knock my socks off? And then that's when July 4th bill comes in. The July 4th bill comes in. And we got the, hold on. House only need one more. What was that bill on July 4th? I keep forgetting. Keep forgetting on the spring break bill. God damn it. What was the spring break? I mean, what was the July 4th bill? I always forget that bill. I just said it earlier. What was the bill? I said it earlier. What was the bill that I said earlier? That was gonna knock everyone's socks off. What was I gonna say? I forgot what the bill was, but July 4th, if y'all rewind the video, you'll hear it. That was a good bill too. So I would have 3 bills within 5 months. Within my first 6 months, I'd have like 3 major bills signed. Property tax relief, tax form relief. Oh, and the real estate relief. But basically, putting I'm eliminating corporations from monopolizing the market by setting limits as to how many condos and units they can buy, redoing the LLC. And I'm telling you, man, people would really be like, wow, this guy means big business here. This guy's actually following his own footsteps. Wow, this guy is good. I'm going to reelect this guy. I would definitely change the complexity. I'd save the American dollar instantly because, people keep asking about why minimum wage should go up. Oh, we need higher wages and stuff, right? Because of the higher cost of living. My answer to that is if we can eliminate the taxes that puts the burden on the average family, that you wouldn't need to necessarily have to wake up every day wondering how much the wages should go up to. It'll be a back burner statement. Now, of course, people are going to want to make more money, and that's fine. But by eliminating these taxes, it's going to put less stress on the minimum wage debate of how much we need to raise it to in such little time, and you need to do it now. It takes less tension off of that, or less focus on that, because your relief knowing that the $100 in your hand is going to get you more stuff than it would with the higher taxes. We actually need to lower taxes here, but again, when it comes to election time, what do they want you to be? They want you to be desperate. They want you to be desperate and broke. That's what they want you to be. Because if you're broke and desperate, they want you to be that way because they want you to be desperate. And even if you do have money, they still want you to be desperate because they want you to go to the polls because you want change so bad. Because humans are driven what? On emotion. So they want you hitting those polls. They want you to vote. Well, if everybody was prosperous in this country, or if most people were, would you care to vote? You would vote, but would it be a big priority? Would you be desperate? No. So they nope, we need him desperate. We want him to be desperate. That's how the society is. That's how they run the elections, is off your desperation. You'll be driven by emotion. You're panicking. You can't stand the high cost of gas, the high cost of food, the high cost of medication. They want you desperate at those polls. It's just we need to, come together. And like I said, in 2028, if we can't get no term limits was the bill, not the real estate bill. That the term limits was the bill in July 4th, which means 8 years. Congress, Senate, House. That's my third bill. I think it would be beautiful, man. I'm telling you, it would definitely, people would be like, man, I like this guy, man. I can't wait to vote for him again. And then, because those three bills alone would be such a big help. I could literally not have to sign another big bill right away until maybe like December. Because in that way, I could take my time and evaluate what other areas need to be looked at. So, I believe that the legislation that most of these candidates pass are smoke and mirrors bills and or non-important bills, small, minor bills. What I want to do is I want to sign a bill that's going to be an impact. That's going to be a major impact on your life right off the bat. You're like, damn. Okay. All right. I see where Rose is coming from. He just wrote this legislation that gave me some time off. He said, whoa. Whoa. He saved me on taxes. Whoa. And just imagine if I could go in and do all that shit, bro. I would definitely have a lot of popularity behind my hand. And a lot of people say, you know what? I'm going to vote for this guy. I can't wait till Rose runs, man. This motherfucker here seems like he knows what he's talking about. I mean, you don't have to be an economist to point out the obvious. This is what's going on. These are the issues that's going on in our country. No. Damn, guys. It's 3 hours and 41 minutes. Unless y'all have any other questions or anything y'all want to share or discuss, guess I might go ahead and call it a wrap. I need some sleep. 10 o'clock, I need to sleep by 10. I will be streaming the Texans-Broncos game. I don't know if you guys are into football, but you're more than welcome to join the stream. I'll be streaming for that game. Hopefully I can get one or two people that'll join the panel. We'll find out. But that game's tomorrow. And I appreciate you guys for listening to me for 3 hours and 42 minutes. Appreciate that shit, man. And I guess if there's anything y'all want to say in the comments before I go, I mean, is there anything y'all want me to discuss or questions, concerns, blah, blah, blah. Do you agree with the video? Is there anything you disagree with? I mean, now's the time to speak. Now's the time. Yes, no, maybe so. Yes, no, maybe so. All right, well, I guess I'm going to head on out and go to sleep, man. You guys have a wonderful night. And I'm sure I'll do more of these videos in the future. Y'all take care.